Disney knows exactly what it is doing by releasing this on cable and streaming right now. They are pulling in the adult nostalgic crowd while trying to hook a whole new teenage audience at the same time.
That double audience strategy is huge, Bianca. D, do we know more about Demi's role behind the camera as executive producer?
Yes, Rachel. Having Demi as an executive producer meant she was directly involved in guiding how the franchise stepped into this new chapter. It is a huge full-circle moment considering she was just 15 or 16 when she landed her breakout role as Michi Torres. Now, at 33, she is executive producing alongside Joe, Nick, and Kevin Jonas.
Which is smart, because who knows how to guide a movie about young musicians better than people who actually lived it? But let us look at the actual competition in the story. Connect 3 needs an opening act. The campers go head-to-head. Tensions rise, unexpected alliances form, and there is even a little romance. Standard summer camp formula, right?
It definitely keeps that classic summer camp formula, Bianca, but with much higher stakes. Opening for a massive reunion tour isn't just winning a local trophy, it is a launching pad for a real professional music career in the story.
If you are just tuning in to our live broadcast, we are talking about Camp Rock 3, premiering Thursday, August 13th on Disney Channel and streaming August 14th on Disney+. Tell us in the chat, does a surprise cameo from Demi Lovato make this a must-watch for you? Bianca, you sound skeptical about cameo roles, but doesn't Demi's presence alone elevate the entire project?
Look, Rachel, I love that Demi came back. Her journey from Barney and Friends to Camp Rock to global pop stardom with 6 UK top 10 singles, including a #1 hit with Clean Bandit on Solo, plus huge hits like Heart Attack, Up with Ollie Murs, and Cool for the Summer, is legendary. But a cameo is just a teaser. You bring back Michi Torres. Fans want to see where Michi and Shane Gray ended up after all these years. Did they stay together? Are they making music? Leaving it as a brief appearance almost feels like teasing the die-hard fans who waited over a decade.
But Bianca, the director specifically noted that keeping Demi's cameo a secret was essential to making that moment on screen feel genuinely special for the audience. And with Connie Torres still running the camp, that emotional link to the original story is fully intact.
Exactly. And having the original cast involved as producers ensures that the heart of the original movies remains, even as the new cast, Liamani Segura, Maliki Barton, Lumi Polak, Casey Trotter, Brooklyn Pitts, Ava Jean, and Hudson Stone take center stage. D, what are people saying about the new songs so far?
Early reviews are saying the soundtrack completely delivers on super catchy, fresh tracks. People are highlighting that while nostalgia brings viewers in, the new performances and Sherry Cola's comedic timing as manager Lark give the film a really dynamic rhythm.
I will hold off on judging the soundtrack until Thursday at 8 Eastern Time, Rachel. But credit where credit is due. Bringing Connect 3 back as judges and mentors is a fun spin on the old dynamic.
It definitely changes things when the icons you used to look up to are now the ones judging your final jam performance. But as we look into how this entire reunion came together behind closed doors, there is one detail about the filming process and those secret cameos that caught everyone off guard during the premiere.
That surprise cameo was so tightly guarded behind closed doors that even people working around the set were kept completely in the dark until the very last moment. When the announcement finally dropped online, Demi literally posted, "Y'all miss me? XOXO Michi." And in recent press talks at the red carpet premiere, she opened up about how coming back to this world after 16 years felt, in her own words, so healing.
Healing is the exact word to focus on. Remember where everyone was in their lives back in 2008 when the first movie exploded into a global phenomenon? They were teenagers dealing with massive overnight fame and intense public scrutiny. Now, cut to 16 years later, and 33-year-old Demi is not just stepping in for a quick wave as Michi Torres, she is listed right alongside Joe, Nick, and Kevin Jonas as an executive producer on the project. That is a massive shift in creative control.
It really shows how full circle this entire reunion is for all of them, Bianca. D. What did the rest of the original team have to say about stepping back onto that iconic set after all these years? Because we know Maria Canals-Barrera came back to reprise her role as Connie Torres as well.
Exactly, Rachel. Maria spoke about wrapping her scenes recently, and she was so passionate about the experience. She said walking back onto the location felt deeply nostalgic and completely on point, saying the camp set looked just like it did all those years ago. She promised that longtime fans are going to love seeing the Jonas Brothers back together on screen, and she teased that the movie is packed with genuine surprises for everyone watching.
Well, the biggest surprise to me is that the writers actually managed to fit the Jonas Brothers into the main narrative without making it feel totally forced or awkward. They play Connect 3, who are preparing for a massive reunion tour and suddenly find themselves without an opening act. But since the guys are fictional megastars who obviously cannot sit around running arts and crafts or supervising cabin inspection every day, the production brought in Sherry Cola as their manager, Lark.
And from everything coming out of early reactions, Sherry Cola completely steals every scene she is in with that sharp comedic timing. How does her character Lark fit into the daily dynamic with the new campers?
Lark is essentially the sharp comedic glue holding the entire camp competition together, while Connect 3 pops in and out between tour prep. While the campers are navigating all the high-stakes drama, unexpected alliances, and rehearsing for the big showcase, Lark is handling the day-to-day chaos with this fast-paced, hilarious energy. It gives the Jonas Brothers room to show up for the big musical moments and mentor sessions without having to anchor every single line of daily dialogue.
Which is a brilliant creative move, because let us be completely honest, nobody wants to see 30-something pop stars pretending they still live in summer camp cabins. Keeping them as the established headliners looking for a support act grounds the story in where they actually are in real life. But I am genuinely curious if our late-night audience is tuning in for that classic nostalgic feeling, or if you are ready to embrace a whole new generation of performers. Tell us what you think on our show page right now.
That balance between honoring the past and handing the microphone over to new talent seems to be the main selling point. And speaking of those new campers, Hudson Stone, who plays Desi in the film, drops some really intriguing details about what viewers should look out for when the movie premieres this Thursday at 8 Eastern Time on Disney Channel.
Yes, Rachel. Hudson mentioned that the creative team was incredibly thorough with how they built this third installment. He hinted that the film is filled to the brim with hidden Easter eggs referencing the original two movies from 2008 and 2010. He warned fans to keep their eyes glued to the background of almost every scene because the little details connecting back to the original storyline are completely insane.
Look, Easter eggs are fine and dandy for the die-hard fans who memorized every single lyric back when they were 10 years old. But a musical cannot survive on callbacks alone. What actually matters is whether these new kids can sing and hold a stage. And from what we are hearing about Lumi Polak's big solo performance as Rosie, the new talent is not playing around at all.
Oh, absolutely. People who got an early look at the film are saying Lumi Polak's solo song completely blew them away and is easily one of the standout musical moments across the entire three-movie franchise. Alongside her, you have Liamani Segura playing Sage, Malachi Barton playing Fletch, plus Casey Trotter, Brooklyn Pitts, Ava Jean, and Hudson Stone, and their vocal range and dynamic energy are getting massive praise.
It sounds like director Veronica Rodriguez and executive producer Tim Federle really knew how to polish these performances to make sure the franchise feels fresh for today's audience. Bianca, from an industry standpoint, do you think this new setup could actually launch these younger actors the same way the original launched Demi and the Jonas Brothers back in the day?
It is a completely different landscape now, Rachel. Back in 2008, a Disney Channel original movie premiere was a massive communal event where millions of teenagers sat in front of a live television set at 8 p.m. sharp. This time around, it premieres Thursday night on cable and then hits streaming on Disney Plus the very next day, Friday, August 14th. The audience is spread across platforms, but if those catchy tracks go viral on social media, these kids could become household names overnight.
That modern release strategy definitely changes how a soundtrack catches fire across the internet. If you are staying up late watching us right now, jump onto our show page and let us know, which new cast member do you think is going to take over your music playlist this weekend? D, let us talk about the behind-the-scenes leadership here, because having Demi Lovato and the Jonas Brothers both serving as executive producers alongside veteran producers like Betsy Sullinger, Spencer Berman, and Gary Marsh feels like a rare alignment.
It really is, Rachel. It is not often you see every single main star from an iconic project return to produce the revival together 16 years later. Their team worked alongside writer Adie Faye and choreographer Jamal Sims to ensure that while the dance numbers feel contemporary and explosive, the heart of the original story remains intact. Demi even noted in recent comments that keeping her cameo a complete secret during production was one of the hardest secrets she has ever had to keep from her fans.
I bet it was hard. Imagine having to stay quiet while everyone online is speculating about whether you will ever return to the franchise that started it all. But let us not gloss over the fact that doing a sequel 16 years later is always a double-edged sword. Nostalgia is huge right now across the entire entertainment industry, but if the script lacks real emotional stakes, viewers tune out after 10 minutes.
But according to those early reviews, the heart is definitely there, especially with Maria Canals-Barrera returning as Connie Torres to keep the camp kitchen and daily operations running smoothly behind the scenes. D, what else did the team reveal about the actual competitive setup for this new Final Jam?
Well, Rachel, the competition centers around Connect 3 returning to Camp Rock because their original opening act suddenly dropped out right before their sold-out reunion tour. So the stakes for these young campers are sky high. It is not just about winning a local camp trophy or bragging rights anymore. The winner literally gets launched onto a professional tour stage opening for Connect 3 in front of thousands of fans.
Now that is actual real-world pressure. Forget summer camp rivalries over a gold ribbon. We are talking about a real career-launching contract and massive tour crowds. That built-in tension gives the rivalry between characters like Sage, Fletch, and Rosie some real edge, which is exactly what a youth musical needs so it does not feel overly soft or predictable.
And with all those unexpected alliances, personal revelations, and budding romances teased in the official trailer, there is clearly a lot happening beneath the surface at Camp Rock this summer. But D, there was one specific detail regarding how choreographer Jamal Sims put together the final musical showcase that caught several industry insiders off guard. And speaking of how everything came together behind the scenes, Bianca, what more can you tell us about what the director and the cast have been sharing about this whole nostalgic rollout?
Well, Rachel, the director Veronica Rodriguez really had to thread the needle here because you are balancing a massive legacy from those first two Disney Channel original movies back in 2008 and 2010 while introducing a brand new crop of kids like Liamani Segura and Malachi Barton.
And let's not forget, Bianca, that cast members like Hudson Stone have been talking about all the hidden Easter eggs buried throughout the film, promising fans of the original movies that there are plenty of winks and nods to spot when it finally drops on Disney Channel this Thursday, August 13th, and on Disney Plus the following day.
Maria Canals-Barrera returning as Connie Torres, the camp cook and mother to Demi Lovato's character Mitchie, also mentioned how the camp set looked just like it did all those years ago, which really grounded the whole experience for the returning actors.
Honestly, hearing that the set physically mirrored the original location makes you realize why the premiere event in Monday night felt so genuinely full circle for everyone involved, especially since the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato were all right there together again. Viewer Chloe from Seattle just messaged us saying, "I cannot believe Camp Rock 3 is finally happening after 16 years. I grew up watching the first two on repeat with my sister, and seeing Demi post 'Y'all miss me, XOXO Mitchie' on X literally made me cry."
That is so sweet, Chloe, and honestly, you are definitely not alone in feeling that way, because Demi herself admitted that keeping her cameo under wraps for so long was definitely hard. But she also called her return to the franchise so healing.
It really is quite a journey when you look at Demi Lovato's career path, Rachel, going all the way back to her days on Barney and Friends from 2002 to 2004, right through to her massive musical breakthrough as Mitchie Torres in 2008, which launched her into releasing huge albums like Here We Go Again and Tell Me You Love Me.
And let's not overlook the behind-the-scenes power move here, D, because Demi isn't just popping up for a quick nostalgic cameo. She is also an executive producer producer on Camp Rock 3, right alongside Joe, Nick, and Kevin Jonas, so she had a real creative stake in shaping this new chapter.
Exactly, Bianca. Sharing that producer credit alongside the Jonas Brothers, Betsy Sullinger, Spencer Berman, and Gary Marsh proves this wasn't just a casual drop-in, but a deeply intentional return to the sandbox where it all started.
And the creative team behind it also brought in choreographer Jamal Sims and writer Adie Faye, working alongside director Veronica Rodriguez to make sure the musical numbers and the driving narrative around Sherry Cola's character Lark felt completely fresh for audiences tuning in this week.
And just to bring everyone joining us right now fully up to speed on what we are unpacking in these late-night hours, Demi Lovato actually opened up about how hard it was to keep that cameo under wraps, admitting in an interview that keeping it all a secret has definitely been hard.
Honestly, Rachel, can you even imagine the sheer willpower it takes to sit on a secret that massive when everyone on the internet has been speculating about a reunion for 16 years since the second movie dropped back in 2010?
And what is so fascinating, Bianca, is that she even teased it on social media with that cheeky post on the platform formerly known as Twitter, writing simply, "Y'all miss me, XOXO Mitchie," which sent fans completely into a frenzy before the premiere even happened on Monday night.
It is such a brilliant marketing move, Dee. And Demi also opened up in recent interviews about how stepping back onto that set and calling it all so healing really adds a whole other emotional layer to this entire release for the longtime fan base.
Well, let us be real, Rachel. When you started out as a kid playing Mitchie Torres alongside Joe, Kevin, and Nick Jonas back in 2008, and then you went on to drop massive albums like Here We Go Again in 2009 and Tell Me You Love Me in 2017, revisiting the place where it all started has to feel pretty surreal.
And the critics and attendees at the premiere this week have been noting how the film manages to balance that heavy dose of nostalgia with fresh faces like Liamani Segura, Malachi Barton, and Lumi Pollock, who play the new generation of campers vying for that opening slot on tour.
Speaking of that new generation, Dee, what more are people saying about how the plot actually handles the transition from the original Connect 3 era to these new kids competing in the musical trials?
Well, the word from reviewers and attendees is that while the Jonas Brothers characters Shane, Nate, and Jason return to find their new opening act, it is actually Sherry Cola playing Lark, their manager, who really holds down the comedic energy on the ground while the guys are busy getting ready for their tour.
Which is such a smart way to structure it. Because, let us face it, the Jonas Brothers cannot be hanging around the mess hall 24/7 when they are supposed to be global pop superstars running a massive reunion tour.
Exactly, Bianca. Having Sherry Cola step in as Lark provides that sharp, witty balance to the high-stakes drama among the campers, alongside returning fan favorites like Maria Canals-Barrera back as Connie Torres, keeping the whole camp running.
And don't forget Rachel, the creative team also loaded the film with hidden Easter eggs that cast members like Hudson Stone teased earlier this year, saying the sequel is thoroughly thought through for anyone who loved the first two movies.
It really makes you appreciate the scale of what Disney pulled off here, premiering it on the Disney Channel this past Thursday, August 13th, and streaming it the next day on Disney Plus for anyone who wanted to binge it immediately.
If you are just tuning in with us in these quiet hours of the night, we are talking about a major pop culture moment. So let us know in the chat if you have already streamed the new musical numbers or if you are waiting for the weekend. Exactly. And if you are just joining us in these quiet hours of the night, we have been diving deep into how this all comes together. So Dee, tell us more about what the director Veronica Rodriguez and the team actually did behind the scenes to prep this whole thing.
Well, Rachel, the creative team really leaned into making sure the world felt authentic to the original two films released back in 2008 and 2010, which Maria Canals-Barrera pointed out when she spoke about how the camp looks just like it did all those years ago.
Which is pretty wild when you think about the timeline, Bianca, because 16 years is a long time to keep a fictional summer camp feeling consistent without it looking completely dated or like a cheap knockoff.
That is such a good point, Bianca, especially since we are talking about a franchise that launched Demi Lovato back in 2008 when she played Michi Torres alongside the Jonas Brothers as Connect 3, way before she started putting out massive albums like Here We Go Again in 2009 and Tell Me You Love Me in 2017.
And don't forget her early roots on television either, Dee, because before she was even at Camp Rock, she was appearing on Barney and Friends alongside the Purple Dinosaur from 2002 to 2004, which feels like a lifetime ago now.
It really puts her entire journey into perspective, doesn't it? Looking at how she went from singing with a dinosaur to starring in a Disney Channel original movie that basically defined an entire generation of kids who are now adults staying up late watching our show.
Speaking of the adult fans, let us know in the chat if you grew up watching the first two movies or if you are just discovering the franchise through this new release.
What is fascinating about this third installment, Rachel, is how the behind-the-scenes reports show that everyone involved, including executive producers like Demi Lovato and the Jonas Brothers alongside Tim Federle and Betsy Sullinger, wanted to balance that heavy dose of nostalgia with a totally fresh storyline for the new campers.
Though let us be honest, Dee. Everybody tuned in primarily to see if the original magic was still there between the core cast members, even if the Jonas Brothers spend a lot of the runtime managing their upcoming reunion tour instead of hanging out at the cabins all day.
They do have their hands full with that tour plotline, managing things while Sherry Cola's character Lark steps in as their manager to keep the chaotic camp competition moving forward, which brings in that sharp, witty, comedic energy we were talking about earlier.
And the new kids really hold their own 2D, with performers like Liamani Segura as Sage, Malachi Barton as Fletch, and Lumi Pollock as Rosie, who apparently completely blows everyone away with a massive solo song that is already turning into a standout musical moment for the entire franchise.
It is smart casting, because you cannot just rely on nostalgia forever. So bringing in fresh talent like Hudson Stone as Desi and Casey Trotter as Cliff gives the younger viewers someone new to root for, while the older fans get their fix of Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray.
Exactly, Bianca. And let us not overlook the massive logistical feat of pulling off secret cameos like the one Demi Lovato managed to keep under wraps, admitting recently that it was definitely hard keeping her return as Michi Torres a secret before the premiere on the Disney Channel this past Thursday, August 13th, and its streaming debut on Disney Plus the next day.
She even posted on social media, teasing the return with a classic line saying, "Y'all miss me? XOXO Michi," which sent fans into an absolute frenzy online right before the release.
She called the whole return healing, which makes sense when you look back at her history with the franchise and how much her life and career have evolved since those early days, including her marriage to Canadian singer-songwriter Jordan Lutz, also known as Jutes, in 2025.
It really is a full circle moment, Rachel. Seeing her back on screen and behind the scenes as an executive producer alongside Joe, Nick, and Kevin Jonas, proving that some of these early Disney connections can actually grow up right alongside their audience. And just looking at how this whole generational handoff was put together, Dee, what are we hearing about the new kids stepping up to the microphone alongside the core crew?
Well, Rachel, the reviews are pointing out that newcomers like Liamani Segura playing Sage, Malachi Barton as Fletch, and Lumi Pollock as Rosie are really holding their own, with special praise going to Lumi Pollock's standout solo song that reportedly completely blew people away.
Which is impressive when you consider the sheer weight of following in the footsteps of the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato. But adding Sherry Cola as Lark, the manager for Connect 3, brings that sharp comedic energy to balance out all the teenage dramatic tension at the camp.
It really is a massive ensemble, including Hudson Stone as Desi and Maria Canals Barrera returning as Connie Torres, keeping Camp Rock running just like she did back in 2008.
Mia from Seattle writes in, "I have literally grown up with Camp Rock, and seeing everyone back together after all these years makes me feel like a teenager again. Are the new songs actually as good as the original ones?" Well, Mia, if the early soundtrack reactions are anything to go by, The new tracks are super catchy and fit right in with the nostalgic vibe without just copying the past.
And let us not forget that behind the camera, director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adi Faye worked alongside a huge team of executive producers, including the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato herself, to make sure all those little Easter eggs for longtime fans were sprinkled throughout the runtime.
Bianca, looking at how the music side of things evolved from the first two films into this third installment, does it feel like they managed to capture that same lightning in a bottle?
Honestly, Rachel, what makes it work is that they did not try to pretend 16 years haven't passed, letting the characters grow up while still keeping that fun, high-stakes summer camp competition alive for a brand new audience.
Bianca, it is so true that the way they handled the passage of time without erasing the original magic really struck a chord with everyone who grew up watching the first two films back in 2008 and 2010.
Absolutely, Rachel. And let us not forget that while the Jonas Brothers are busy getting ready for their massive reunion tour as Connect 3, they are not just showing up for a quick second and leaving.
Well, Dee, they actually returned to Camp Rock to kick off a brand new competition where campers vie through a series of musical trials to secure that coveted opening act spot on the road.
And Bianca, we have to talk about how the new generation holds their own alongside the core cast, especially with standout performances from younger talent like Lumi Polak playing Rosie and Liamani Segura as Sage.
Lumi Polak's solo song in the movie completely blew people away, Rachel, proving that the musical standard of the franchise is still just as high as it was when Demi Lovato and the guys were singing about the final jam 16 years ago.
Dee, what do we know about how Sherry Cola fits into all of this chaos as Lark, the manager for Connect 3, while the guys are busy preparing for their tour? Well, reports point out that Sherry Cola brings this sharp, comedic energy that balances out the high-stakes drama among the campers, serving as the perfect stand-in while the Jonas Brothers are away handling tour prep.
Rachel here, reminding everyone watching our live show tonight that Camp Rock 3 officially premieres this Thursday, August 13th, on the Disney Channel at 8 o'clock in the evening Eastern and Pacific Time, and it will be available to stream the very next day on Disney+.
Bianca jumping in here because the premiere event itself earlier this week drew out the original stars, including the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato, and the red carpet photos alone sent social media into a complete frenzy.
Dee, looking at the behind-the-scenes side of things, director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adi Faye worked alongside executive producers like the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato herself to pack the runtime with hidden Easter eggs for longtime fans.
Rachel, turning back to the creative team, cast members like Maria Canals-Barrera, who returns as Connie Torres, keeping the camp kitchen running, mentioned that stepping back onto the set felt completely on point and nostalgic.
Bianca, it is wild to think about how far Demi Lovato has come since her breakthrough role as Michi Torres, going from starring in children's television like Barney and Friends from 2002 to 2004, all the way to executive producing this new film.
Dee, speaking of her return, Demi Lovato admitted in interviews that it has definitely been hard keeping her secret cameo a quiet affair, even joking on social media with fans by posting, "Y'all miss me, XOXO Michi."
Rachel, she also opened up about the whole experience of coming back for this project, calling her return to the franchise genuinely healing after everything she has accomplished in her music career, with hits like Heart Attack and Cool for the Summer.
Bianca, when you look at the wider pop culture landscape right now, it is rare for a reboot or a sequel to lean this heavily into genuine nostalgia while still giving the spotlight to fresh faces like Malachi Barton as Fletch and Hudson Stone as Desi.
Dee, reviewer notes emphasize that the film manages to stay true to its roots while handing the microphone over to a new generation of musicians who know how to rock that stage.
Dee, we were just talking about how much fun it is to see the franchise embrace its roots while introducing all these fresh faces like Lumi Polak and Malachi Barton. But let's talk about the incredible creative team working behind the scenes to make this third film happen after 16 years.
Rachel, honestly, when you look at who is steering the ship this time around, it is fascinating because Veronica Rodriguez is in the director's chair, keeping that classic aesthetic intact while delivering a movie that reviewer notes praise for staying true to its original summer camp vibe.
D. And don't forget, the writing was handled by Adi Faye, with choreography by Jamal Sims, bringing a totally fresh and dynamic energy to the musical numbers that have fans talking non-stop on social media.
Rachel, it really is a massive full-circle moment for everyone involved, especially when you think about executive producers like Tim Federle, who brought us High School Musical, the series, teaming up with Joe, Nick, Kevin, and Demi Lovato to oversee the whole project alongside producers Betsy Sullinger, Spencer Berman, and Gary Marsh.
Bianca, it makes you realize just how much care went into preserving the legacy of the original two films from 2008 and 2010. Especially with a special nod to Alan Sachs for his original contribution to the franchise.
D. And for anyone tuning in late who is wondering when and where they can actually watch all of this unfold, Camp Rock 3 premieres on the Disney Channel this Thursday at 8 o'clock in the evening Eastern Time, and it will be available to stream the very next day on Disney+.
Rachel, if you are just joining us in the middle of the night here on our live show, we have been diving deep into the massive cultural wave surrounding this long-awaited reunion. And trust me, you are going to want your calendars marked for Thursday night.
Bianca, exactly. Because between the Connect 3 reunion tour plot, the intense musical trials for the new campers, and Sherry Cola stealing every scene as their hilarious manager Lark, there is simply no shortage of entertainment to keep us all awake tonight.
Rachel, as we keep our eyes on the clock here in the middle of the night, let us talk about the incredible detail that went into making this third film feel like a genuine piece of the franchise history. Because director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adi Faye really made sure that Camp Rock looks just like it did back in 2008 and 2010.
Bianca, it is honestly wild to think that Maria Canals Barrera was talking about how the set design brought right back that exact same nostalgic energy. And with choreography by Jamal Sims and executive producers like Tim Federle, Gary Marsh, and Betsy Sullinger all working behind the scenes, you can tell they wanted to respect every single Easter egg for the fans.
D. And if we look at what the cast members like Hudson Stone have been sharing about those hidden surprises scattered throughout the movie, it is clear the creative team left no stone unturned to reward everyone who has stuck with the franchise for 16 years.
Chloe from Chicago writes in, I cannot believe we are finally getting Camp Rock 3 tonight. Seeing Demi Lovato and the Jonas Brothers back together makes my inner teenager scream. And I am taking the day off work on Thursday just to watch it live.
Rachel, Chloe, you are definitely not alone in that feeling because the entire internet is buzzing with excitement as we count down the hours to the premiere on the Disney Channel this Thursday at 8 o'clock in the evening Eastern Time, with streaming on Disney Plus the very next day.
Bianca, it is hilarious to imagine people taking time off work for a Disney Channel original movie. But honestly, given how massive hits like Heart Attack, Cool for the Summer, and Sucker were for these artists over the years, the nostalgia is a very powerful currency right now.
D. And let us not forget that beyond the music, the real driving force of the plot this time is Connect 3 needing a fresh opening act for their reunion tour, which sets up all those high-stakes musical trials and fierce competition among the new campers.
Rachel, what did you think about how they integrated the new talent alongside the veterans? Bianca, especially with newcomers like Liamani Segura as Sage, Malaki Barton as Fletch, and Lumi Polak delivering that jaw-dropping solo as Rosie.
Bianca, Lumi Polak completely stole the show with that performance, and pairing these incredible young vocalists with Sherry Cola playing Lark, the brilliantly sharp and comedic manager for Connect 3, gives the whole movie such a fresh and funny dynamic.
D. Sherry Cola brings that perfect level of chaotic energy to balance out the dramatic tension of the campers trying to prove themselves to Joe, Nick, and Kevin Jonas.
Rachel, we also have to touch on the fact that Demi Lovato admitted it was definitely hard keeping her cameo a secret after all this time, especially when she posted that playful message on X saying, quote, "Y'all miss me," end quote.
Bianca, keeping a secret like that in today's social media landscape is practically impossible, so props to her and the entire production team for managing to surprise everyone at the premiere on Monday night.
D. And seeing Demi Lovato and the Jonas Brothers walk that red carpet together really brought their whole journey full circle, reminding everyone of how they went from child stars on the Disney Channel to massive global superstars superstars with multiple top 10 albums and chart-topping hits.
Rachel, it makes you appreciate how far they have come since the very first film released back in 2008, and why Demi Lovato called this entire return so healing for her. Rachel, we have to talk about how the entire cast and crew managed to weave those brilliant Easter eggs into the new film, because hearing Hudson Stone earlier this year talk about how thorough the production was really sets up how much detail fans have to look forward to when it drops.
Bianca, when a franchise has been away for 16 years since the second movie came out back in 2010, you can either phone it in on pure nostalgia, or you can actually respect the lore. And it sounds like they genuinely did their homework with all those hidden references. Dee and Maria Canals Barrera returning as Connie Torres really anchors that continuity for the audience, especially since she mentioned after wrapping filming that walking back onto the camp set felt completely on point and just like it did in the original 2008 movie.
Rachel, it is fascinating to look at how the creative team, led by director Veronica Rodriguez, balanced bringing back the core characters like the Jonas Brothers as Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray, alongside a brand new generation of campers trying out for that coveted opening tour spot.
Bianca, let us be honest. Half the fun of these modern revivals is seeing whether the new kids can actually hold their own against the legacy cast. And based on the early word, newcomers like Lumi Polak as Rosie are completely stealing scenes with standout musical performances. And we cannot overlook Sherry Cola stepping in as Lark, the manager for Connect 3. Bringing that sharp comedic energy that the reports say balances out all the high-stakes drama among the younger campers competing in the musical trial.
Rachel, speaking of those musical trials, the soundtrack is reportedly delivering some seriously catchy tracks that will have fans singing along just like they did back when the first film made Demi Lovato and the Jonas Brothers global superstars.
Bianca! It is wild to remember that before all of this, Demi Lovato got her start on Barney and Friends between 2002 and 2004 before landing her massive breakthrough as Michi Torres in the first Camp Rock movie. And that journey really came full circle at the premiere on Monday night when she walked the red carpet alongside Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas, reminding everyone of how far they have all come since the franchise first kicked off 18 years ago.
Rachel, for anyone tuning in late and wondering when they can catch all the action, the film officially premieres this Thursday, August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Disney Channel, and it will be available to stream the very next day on Disney+.
Bianca, just make sure you have your snacks ready and your vocal cords warmed up. Because if the trailer and the early reviews are anything to go by, this is going to be the ultimate summer watch for anyone who grew up singing along to the original soundtrack.
And just to circle back to what you were saying, Bianca, about the incredible musical moments in Camp Rock 3, what are people saying about some of the standout performances from the new faces joining the franchise this time around?
The word from reviewers is that the soundtrack completely delivers, and the standout vocal performance of the entire franchise might actually belong to newcomer Lumi Polak, who plays Rosie and absolutely blows everyone away with her solo song.
Bianca! It is so refreshing when a sequel actually lets the new generation shine instead of just relying entirely on nostalgia. And besides Lumi, we are also getting amazing performances from Liamani Segura as Sage and Malachi Barton as Fletch.
Rachel, and we cannot forget about Sherry Cola either, who plays Connect 3's manager Lark and brings this brilliant, sharp comedic energy that balances out all the high-stakes drama among the campers.
Early reviews have called Sherry Cola an absolute delight in every scene she is in, serving as the perfect stand-in while the Jonas Brothers are busy getting ready for their tour and only popping in occasionally.
Bianca, honestly, watching the Jonas Brothers return as Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray alongside Maria Canals Barrera returning as Connie Torres really ties the whole universe together after all these years.
Rachel, Maria Canals Barrera actually spoke about returning to the set, calling it entirely nostalgic and mentioning that the camp looks just like it did back in 2008. Which is such a sweet detail for longtime fans.
Hudson Stone, who plays Desi in the new film, also pointed out earlier this year that the sequel is thoroughly thought through, with tons of hidden Easter eggs that fans of the first two movies are going to lose their minds over.
Bianca, if you are tuning in right now, just remember that the director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adi Faye worked hard to maintain that classic summer camp aesthetic while still keeping things fresh for today's audience.
Rachel, and for everyone asking about the creative team behind the scenes, the film is produced by Disney Kids and Family, with choreography by Jamal Sims, and executive produced by Tim Federal alongside Joe Jonas, Nick Jonas, Kevin Jonas, and Demi Lovato herself.
Speaking of Demi Lovato, her return as Michi Torres for that surprise cameo has been a massive talking point, especially after she admitted in interviews that keeping it a secret was definitely hard, but that stepping back into the role felt completely healing.
Bianca, calling the return healing is such a powerful way to describe it, especially when you think about her journey from starting out on Barney and Friends between 2002 and 2004 to her massive Disney breakthrough in the original Camp Rock.
Rachel, and looking at how far she has come since then, from releasing major hits like Heart Attack and Cool for the Summer to achieving 6 United Kingdom top 10 singles and 5 United Kingdom top 10 albums, it really is a full-circle Disney moment.
And let us not forget she is also married to Canadian singer-songwriter Jordan Lutz, known as Jutes, whom she married in 25, making this whole era of her life feel extra special.
Bianca, whether you are here for the nostalgia of the Jonas Brothers or to see how the new campers handled the musical trials to become the opening act for Connect 3, this is shaping up to be the ultimate summer watch.
Rachel, moving right along in our late-night deep dive into the massive cultural wave of Camp Rock 3, let us talk about how everything is rolling out this week on Disney Channel and Disney+.
Bianca, it is honestly wild to think that fans have been waiting 16 years since the second film for Connect 3 to finally head back to the cabins. And the premiere schedule is right upon us this week.
Exactly. With the movie officially premiering on the Disney Channel this Thursday at 8 o'clock in the evening Eastern Time and Pacific Time before dropping to stream the very next day on Disney+.
Rachel, what makes this rollout so fascinating, Bianca, is how the creative team, including director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adi Faye, managed to weave in so many Easter eggs and meticulous set details that connect back to 2008 and 2010.
Bianca, Hudson Stone, who plays Desi in the new movie, actually mentioned earlier this year how thorough the production was with those hidden nods. And honestly, that is how you treat a legacy franchise without just relying on pure nostalgia. Viewer Maya from Chicago just wrote in saying, "I cannot believe we are getting a brand new Camp Rock after all this time. I am 30 now, and taking time off work to watch it with my sister, just like the old days."
Rachel, I love that so much, Maya, because that truly captures what everyone is feeling right now, balancing that sweet childhood memory with the fresh energy of the new cast.
And speaking of that new cast, the talent coming in is no joke, especially when you look at newcomers like Liamani Segura as Sage and Malachi Barton as Fletch, bringing their A-game to the musical trials.
Bianca, not to mention Lumi Pollack playing Rosie, whose solo song is reportedly blowing people away and standing out as one of the best musical moments in the entire franchise history.
Rachel, when you look at how Sherry Cola steps in as Lark, the manager for Connect 3, how does her comedic energy fit into the high-stakes drama of the camp competition?
From everything critics and early reviewers are saying, she is an absolute riot, bringing that sharp, witty perspective that keeps the campers in line while the Jonas Brothers are busy prepping for their reunion tour.
Bianca, which brings us right back to Kevin, Joe, and Nick playing Jason, Shane, and Nate Gray. Because even though they are mostly tied up with their tour preparations, their presence anchors the whole plot.
Rachel, and let us not forget the return of Maria Canals-Barrera as Connie Torres, keeping the camp kitchen running just like she did back when Demi Lovato's character Michi first arrived as a shy songwriter. And just to round out our late-night look at this massive Disney reunion, the premiere schedule for Camp Rock 3 is locked in, right?
It is. Rachel, with the movie officially premiering this Thursday, August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and Pacific on the Disney Channel, and then dropping to stream the very next day on Disney Plus for anyone who wants to watch it all over again.
Bianca, which is honestly the safest bet because fans have waited 16 years since the first two movies, starting way back in 2008 and 2010. So waiting 24 extra hours to stream it on Disney Plus is nothing compared to a decade-and-a-half hiatus.
Rachel, and what makes this return so fascinating, Bianca, is looking at how everyone has grown, from Demi Lovato starting out on Barney and Friends back in the early 2000s to becoming a global music star with hits like Heart Attack and Cool for the Summer.
Bianca, exactly, Rachel. And now stepping into that executive producer role alongside Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas, while also managing to keep her special cameo as Michi Torres completely under wraps until the very last minute.
D, and keeping that secret was reportedly no easy task, as Demi admitted recently that it was definitely hard to keep her return quiet, especially when social media was already buzzing with speculation about whether Michi would show up at all.
Rachel D., when you look at the wider creative team behind the camera, including director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adie Faye, how much credit do they get for keeping the original Camp Rock aesthetic alive while introducing characters like Lumi Pollack's Rosie and Malachi Barton's Fletch?
D, from everything the cast and crew have shared, Rachel, the attention to detail is staggering, with the set design specifically built to evoke total nostalgia and packed full of Easter eggs that longtime fans are going to spend hours spotting.
Bianca, Maria Canals Barrera returning as Connie Torres, the camp cook and mom to Michi. Definitely helps anchor that nostalgic feeling since she was right there in 2008 when it all started.
Rachel, absolutely, Bianca. And hearing Maria talk about walking back onto the set and feeling like no time had passed at all really highlights why this project feels so special for the original cast and crew.
Bianca, it is a full circle moment, Rachel, especially when you consider that the Joe Bros themselves, playing Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray, are juggling their own massive music careers alongside their characters, returning to lead the camp's new generation.
D, and let us not forget the new generation of campers stepping up, Rachel, because newcomers like Liamani Segura as Sage and Hudson Stone as Desi are bringing an incredible energy to the musical trials that drive the plot of Camp Rock 3.
Rachel D., before we wrap up our deep dive into the premiere, what are viewers online saying about the overall tone of the soundtrack?
D, the early word from fans and reviewers is that the music completely delivers, Rachel, with catchy tracks that rival the original songs, and Lumi Pollack's standout solo as Rosie quickly becoming one of the most talked about moments across social media.
The soundtrack completely delivers, Rachel, with catchy tracks that rival the original songs and Lumi Pollack's standout solo as Rosie quickly becoming one of the most talked about moments across social media.
Bianca, that solo really is something else, because when you look at how new talents like Lumi Pollack and Liamani Segura are stepping into the spotlight alongside established names, it proves the franchise still knows how to find incredible performers 16 years after the first movie.
D, and speaking of those performances, what is fascinating from the behind-the-scenes reporting is how director Veronica Rodriguez and the creative team managed to capture that exact same summer camp energy while introducing brilliant comedic additions like Sherry Cola as Connect 3's manager Lark.
Rachel, Sherry Cola brings such a sharp energy to balance out the high-stakes drama of the musical trials. But Bianca, how do you think the dynamic between the returning legacy cast and the new campers shapes the overall story of Camp Rock 3?
Bianca, it works surprisingly well because you have the Jonas Brothers reprising their roles as Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray to hold down the nostalgic core, while Maria Canals Barrera returns as Connie Torres to keep the camp running, creating a bridge between generations that feels completely earned.
D, and let us not forget that behind the camera, both the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato took on executive producer roles alongside their on-screen appearances, which really shows how deeply invested they were in bringing this universe back to life for Disney Channel and Disney+.
Rachel D., looking at how the premiere rollout is shaping up, what are the exact release details for viewers tuning in this week?
D, the film premieres this Thursday, August the 13th, at 8 in the evening Eastern and Pacific on the Disney Channel. And for those who prefer to stream, it becomes available the very next day, Friday, August the 14th, on Disney+.
Bianca, streaming it the next day is brilliant because by the time Thursday night rolls around, social media is going to be completely flooded with reactions, especially regarding Demi Lovato's secret cameo as Michi Torres.
Rachel, keeping that cameo a secret must have been an enormous challenge, and Demi Lovato even admitted in recent interviews that it was definitely hard to keep under wraps, calling her return to the franchise so healing after all these years.
Dee, and her journey from starring in the original 2008 movie to launching a massive global music career with hits like Heart Attack and Cool for the Summer, and now returning as both executive producer and cameo star, is just incredible to trace.
Bianca, exactly, because before any of that Disney success happened, she was already on children's television, appearing on Barney and Friends from 2002 to 2004, so seeing her come full circle back to Camp Rock with the Jonas Brothers is the ultimate pop culture moment right now.
Rachel, before we move on to how fans are reacting to all the hidden Easter eggs planted throughout the meticulously designed camp sets, what else did the early reviews highlight about the musical competition at the heart of the plot, D?
Reviewers have pointed out that the narrative hook of Connect 3 needing a brand new opening act for their sold-out reunion tour creates the perfect high-stakes environment for the campers, driving all the new musical trials, romances, and unexpected alliances.
Bianca! And for anyone watching at home, finding all those hidden Easter eggs from the first two films is going to be half the fun, because the production team went out of their way to make sure the camp looks and feels just like it did back in 2008.
Rachel, Bianca, when you consider how many reboots and sequels Hollywood pushes out nowadays, what makes this particular return stand out from the rest of the nostalgia-driven content currently flooding the entertainment industry? Rachel, before we move on to how fans are reacting to all the hidden Easter eggs planted throughout the meticulously designed camp sets, what else did the early reviews highlight about the musical competition at the heart of the plot, D?
Bianca, and for anyone watching at home, finding all those hidden Easter eggs from the first two films is going to be half the fun, because the production team went out of their way to make sure the camp looks and feels just like it did back in 2008.
D. Reviewers have pointed out that the narrative hook of Connect 3 needing a brand new opening act for their sold-out reunion tour creates the perfect high-stakes environment for the campers, driving all the new musical trials, romances, and unexpected alliances.
Rachel, exactly. And it is fascinating to see how the creative team balanced that heavy dose of nostalgia with introducing fresh talent like Lumi Pollock, whose vocal solo as Rosie has been getting rave reviews.
Bianca, honestly, when you look at how many reboots just rely on cheap tricks to get people through the door, it is refreshing that Camp Rock 3 actually delivers on the music and lets newcomers shine alongside the original stars. Viewer from Seattle writes, I cannot believe Demi Lovato kept her cameo a secret for so long. Seeing Michi Torres back on screen after 16 years made me cry tears of joy at 3 in the morning.
Rachel, look at that. Someone in the audience is feeling every bit of that late-night emotional wave right along with us, which really proves what Demi meant when she called her return healing.
D. And keeping that cameo under wraps was apparently no small feat, as Demi herself admitted that hiding her return from fans and even some of her peers for so long was definitely hard.
Bianca, can you imagine trying to keep a secret like that in the age of social media, when every fan with a smartphone is analyzing every single behind-the-scenes post from the set?
Rachel, speaking of social media, D, what did Demi post on X to tease her return before the premiere?
D. She simply posted, "Y'all miss me," followed by XOXO, Michi, which instantly sent the entire internet into a complete frenzy.
Bianca, that is such a classic way to tease a comeback. Just dropping a tiny breadcrumb and letting the fans do all the heavy lifting of building the hype.
Rachel, looking back at her journey from Barney and Friends to breaking out in 2008 alongside the Jonas Brothers, how incredible is it that she is now an executive producer on this third installment?
D. It really shows how much creative control and respect she has earned in the industry over the last 2 decades, balancing massive pop hits like Heart Attack and Cool for the Summer with behind-the-scenes leadership.
Bianca, and let us not forget the Jonas Brothers getting right back into character as Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray, proving they still have the exact same charm they had when the first film came out 16 years ago.
Rachel D., remind us of the exact premiere timeline for everyone watching who might want to catch it on television or streaming this week.
D. The film premieres on the Disney Channel this coming Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific Time, and it will be available to stream the very next day on Disney+.
Bianca. And before we dive deeper into the fan reactions coming in about the soundtrack, Rachel, are we seeing any other legacy cast members besides Maria Canals-Barrera returning to round out the familiar faces? Bianca, it really is wild thinking about how 16 years have flown by since the first film, and seeing the core group back together on the red carpet at the premiere just felt surreal.
Rachel, and we should mention that Demi Lovato actually admitted it was quite difficult keeping her cameo a secret from fans before the release.
D. She even posted on social media teasing her return with a playful line asking if everyone missed her, reprising her beloved character Michi Torres.
Bianca, and let us not forget she is also working behind the scenes as an executive producer alongside the Jonas Brothers, really anchoring that full circle moment for everyone who grew up watching them.
Rachel, D. What has the director Veronica Rodriguez shared about orchestrating this massive return and balancing the legacy cast with the newcomers?
D. The creative team has been talking about how meticulous the set design was to ensure it genuinely feels like returning to the original camp from 2008.
Bianca, and speaking of the new camp, we cannot overlook Sherry Cola stepping in as Connect 3's manager Lark, bringing that sharp comedic energy to keep the young campers in line.
Rachel, for anyone tuning in late and wondering when they can catch all these musical trials and romances, let us remind everyone of the exact schedule.
D. Camp Rock 3 premieres this coming Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific Time on the Disney Channel, and it will be available to stream the very next day on Disney+.
Bianca, Rachel, before we wrap up this segment, are we seeing any early word on how standout newcomers like Lumi Pollack are being received by the audience?
Rachel, absolutely. Critics are already highlighting Lumi Pollack's character Rosie and her major vocal solo as one of the absolute standout musical moments of the entire franchise. Rachel, as we were just noting with the premiere right around the corner this coming Thursday, the excitement around Demi Lovato's involvement goes far beyond just her surprise appearance on screen.
D. That is completely right, because alongside her cameo as Michi Torres, Demi Lovato also served as an executive producer on Camp Rock 3, sharing those duties with the Jonas Brothers, Tim Federle, Betsy Sullinger, Spencer Berman, and Gary Marsh.
Bianca, which is a massive full circle moment when you remember she started her journey on children's television back on Barney and Friends from 2002 to 2004 before landing her breakthrough Disney Channel role in 2008.
Rachel, exactly. And Bianca, keeping that cameo under wraps for so long was apparently no easy feat for her either, as she admitted in recent interviews that it was definitely hard to keep it a secret from fans.
D. Reports indicate she even teased her return on social media with a post on X asking her followers if they missed her and signing off as Michi, which immediately sent the fandom into a frenzy.
Bianca, and honestly, can you blame the fans? After 16 years since the first movie premiered, seeing the original cast reunite alongside newcomers like Lumi Pollack and Liamani Segura is just pure nostalgia gold.
Rachel, D, looking at how the creative team handled the transition, how does the director Veronica Rodriguez balance bringing back legacy favorites like Maria Canals-Barrera as Connie Torres while introducing this brand new crop of campers?
D. From what the behind-the-scenes insights reveal, they relied heavily on meticulous set design to recreate the authentic feel of the original camp from 2008, while letting the new musical trials and competition drive the plot forward.
Bianca, and having Sherry Cola on board as Connect 3's manager Lark adds that sharp comedic relief to keep the young campers in line while the Jonas Brothers are busy getting ready for their reunion tour.
Rachel, before we move on to how audiences are reacting to the soundtrack, let us remind everyone tuning in right now that Camp Rock 3 premieres this Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific Time on the Disney Channel, with streaming available the next day on Disney+. Rachel, we have been talking all night about this incredible Camp Rock 3 revival, but let us look closer at how the original cast felt stepping back onto that exact set after 16 years.
D. Maria Canals-Barrera actually talked about walking back onto the grounds, saying it was completely nostalgic and felt totally on point because the camp looks just like it did back in 2008.
Bianca, And can we talk about how smart it was to bring the Jonas Brothers back as Connect 3 while handing the main musical competition over to a brilliant new generation of campers?
D, the director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adi Faye really threaded that needle carefully, making sure that newcomers like Lumi Pollack playing Rosie and Leah Minazi Segura playing Sage got their proper moments to shine.
Viewer message from Chloe in Chicago. I literally grew up watching Demi Lovato and the Jonas Brothers on Disney Channel and seeing them back together for Camp Rock 3 with Demi executive producing just makes my heart so happy.
Rachel, Chloe, you are definitely not alone in feeling that way, because Demi Lovato herself called the entire return healing after having to keep her secret cameo under wraps for so long.
Bianca, keeping that secret cameo hidden on social media with posts like asking fans if they missed her as Michi Torres was a masterclass in building hype before Thursday night's big premiere.
Rachel D. When you look at the wider legacy of the franchise, how does this new installment set up the musical trials for Connect 3's reunion tour compared to the older movies?
D. Unlike the second film where they faced off against rival camp star, this story focuses inward on the campers themselves competing intensely for that coveted opening act spot.
Bianca, and thank goodness for Sherry Cola playing Manager Lark to keep all those ambitious young campers in line, while the Jonas Brothers are busy prepping for their actual tour.
Rachel, before we dive even deeper into how the new soundtrack is taking over streaming platforms, let us remember that the Disney Channel premiere is this Thursday at 8 o'clock in the evening Eastern and Pacific time. Rachel, we have been talking about how 16 years have passed since the original movie came out in 2008. And looking at the sheer volume of new tracks, the soundtrack is shaping up to be a massive commercial win for the studio.
Bianca, it really is impressive because usually these late-in-the-game sequels just rely entirely on recycled hits. But bringing in fresh talent like Lumi Pollack and Liamani Segura actually gives the music modern weight.
D. And what makes it work so well behind the scenes is how the creative team, including director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adi Faye, managed to respect the original tone set back in 2008 while still giving us a completely updated camp dynamic.
Rachel D. When you consider that the core group of campers includes names like Malachi Barton playing Fletch and Hudson Stone playing Desi, how do their storylines balance against the massive presence of the Jonas Brothers as Connect 3?
D. The narrative gives the Jonas Brothers a very specific, practical reason to step back by having them search for an opening act for their reunion tour, which naturally leaves the day-to-day camp drama to be managed by Sherry Cola as Lark.
Bianca, and thank goodness for Sherry Cola, because her comedic timing as the exasperated manager is precisely what keeps the movie from taking itself too seriously amidst all the high-stakes musical trials.
Rachel, Bianca, let us also not forget that Maria Canals Barrera is back as Connie Torres, running the kitchen just like she did when Demi Lovato's character Michi first arrived on screen 18 years ago.
Bianca, seeing Maria Canals Barrera return alongside the Jonas Brothers is the kind of continuity that longtime fans appreciate, especially since the set design was painstakingly crafted to look identical to the original camp.
D. And speaking of the original cast, the way Demi Lovato managed to keep her cameo under wraps with teaser posts on social media asking if fans missed Michi Torres was a brilliant marketing tactic leading up to the premiere.
Rachel D., for anyone tuning in late in the middle of the night, remind us when they can actually catch the premiere on television and streaming.
D. The movie premieres this Thursday, August the 13th, at 8 o'clock in the evening Eastern and Pacific time on the Disney Channel, and it will be available to stream the very next day on Disney+.
Bianca, just make sure you have your popcorn ready for Thursday night, because between the nostalgia, the new vocals from Lumi Pollack, and that secret cameo, it is quite the ride.
Rachel, and as we count down those final hours before Thursday night arrives, Bianca, let's talk about the incredible journey these artists have been on since the first film dropped back in 2008.
Bianca, it is wild to think that it has been 16 years since the first movie, and watching Joe, Nick, and Kevin Jonas step right back into those roles as Connect 3 feels completely surreal.
D. And let's not forget that besides starring as Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray, the Jonas Brothers are also serving as executive producers alongside Demi Lovato, really taking the reins behind the scenes for this third installment.
Rachel, what did you find out about how the new generation of campers holds up against the legacy stars D?
The reviews are saying that the new kids, like Lumi Pollack playing Rosie and Liamani Segura playing Sage, completely deliver with standout vocal performances that give the original soundtrack a run for its money.
Bianca, honestly, the idea of Connect 3 coming back to Camp Rock just to find an opening act for their reunion tour is such a smart narrative device to bridge the gap between the 2008 original and this brand new film.
Rachel, and speaking of bridging gaps, Bianca, the director Veronica Rodriguez, and writer Adi Faye made sure the camp itself looks identical to the original set, which had Maria Canals Barrera raving about the nostalgia.
Maria Canals Barrera, who plays Mitchie's mom Connie Torres, mentioned in an interview last year after rapping that the set was so on point it felt like stepping right back in time.
Bianca, and for everyone watching us in the middle of the night, just imagine how hard it was for Demi Lovato to keep her cameo as Mitchie Torres under wraps with all those social media teases asking if fans missed her.
Rachel, she even posted on X saying, quote, "Y'all miss me," end quote, which sent the fan base into an absolute frenzy before the premiere event on Monday night.
Demi Lovato actually opened up about how difficult it was keeping that cameo a secret, but she also called the entire experience of returning to the franchise so healing.
Bianca, healing is a great word for it, because starting her career on children's television like Barney and Friends back in 2002, before her big Disney breakthrough in Camp Rock, shaped her entire musical path.
Rachel, exactly. And from those early Disney days, she went on to release massive albums like Here We Go Again in 2009 and Unbroken in 2011, proving she was a force in the music industry.
And let's not overlook the comedic genius of Sherry Cola joining the cast as Lark, the manager for Connect 3, who keeps everyone laughing while the campers deal with high-stakes musical trials.
Bianca, Sherry Cola brings such a sharp energy that balances out the drama, and honestly, between her management antics and Lumi Pollack's powerhouse solo as Rosie, the movie has so many layers to unpack.
Rachel, as we stay up through the night talking about all these details, keep us posted on any fresh fan reactions dropping online, D.
The online reactions are pouring in right now, Rachel, especially regarding that dynamic between the new generation of campers and the original legacy stars.
That is exactly what everyone watching at home is typing into their phones tonight, D. Because bringing back a franchise after 16 years is a massive tightrope walk.
A tightrope walk is putting it gently, Rachel. Look, reboots usually make me want to cover my eyes, but having Connect 3 actually search for an opening act for their reunion tour gives the whole movie a legitimate purpose, instead of just sitting there relying on cheap nostalgia.
And that is where Lark comes in, Bianca. The reporting from the production side notes that because the Jonas Brothers could not be on set every single day due to the storyline of their band preparing for the tour, Sherry Cola's character carries the day-to-day momentum of the competition.
Which was a brilliant move. Sherry Cola has that natural, sharp comedic energy where she does not have to try hard to make you laugh. And let us be real, you need that grounding when you have a bunch of high-energy campers battling it out in high-stakes musical trials.
It really balances the emotional weight of the story. And speaking of emotional weight, D, what are fans saying about Demi Lovato returning as Mitchie Torres?
People are completely losing their minds over her post on social media where she wrote, "Y'all miss me? XOXO Mitchie." What her team and the production confirmed is that beyond her cameo, her role as an executive producer alongside Joe, Nick, and Kevin Jonas gave her real creative control over how Mitchie was reintroduced.
And that is why it feels sincere rather than a stunt, D. Demi is 33 now, born Demetria Devon Lovato, back in 1992. She started on Barney and Friends from 2002 to 2004, and she has built a massive solo music career. She does not need to do a random pop-in unless it actually means something personal to her.
She even called this return so healing, which makes complete sense given how much her career exploded after the first Camp Rock in 2008. Let us pause for a second because our viewer inbox is blowing up tonight. I want to read this message that just came in on our live screen.
Hi, everyone. I am Taylor from Ohio, and I am staying up way past my bedtime watching the show tonight. I literally cried when I saw the news about Mitchie returning because Camp Rock was my entire childhood, and I cannot believe we are getting new music and the original cast back together after 16 years. Taylor from Ohio, go get some sleep after this block, but I totally get why you are crying. It is wild to think 16 years have passed since 2008. But nostalgia is a powerful thing in the entertainment industry right now.
It really is, Bianca, and viewers like Taylor are appreciating how thorough the production team was with all the details. Hudson Stone, who joins the cast as Desi, shared earlier this year that the set design under director Veronica Rodriguez is so insanely detailed that fans will be spotting Easter eggs frame by frame.
Veronica Rodriguez, who previously directed The Slumber Party, teamed up with writer Adie Faye and choreographer Jamal Sims to make sure the original camp aesthetic was preserved. Dee, what did Maria Canals Barrera say when she wrapped filming on her return as Connie Torres?
Maria mentioned after wrapping last year that stepping back onto the set was completely nostalgic and right on point. She said the camp looks identical to how it was when they filmed the original in 2008 and the sequel, Camp Rock 2, The Final Jam, in 2010. And she teased that fans are going to love seeing the Jonas Brothers again alongside all the surprises.
See, that is what gets me. Keeping the look of the camp identical while introducing kids like Liamani Segura playing Sage, Malachi Barton as Fletch, and Lumi Pollack as Rosie is how you successfully pass the torch. You do not erase the foundation, you build on top of it.
Pass the torch is the perfect way to describe it, Bianca. And when you talk about passing the torch, you have to talk about the soundtrack. We have heard so much praise for Lumi Pollack's solo performance as Rosie.
Reviews of the early cuts are calling Lumi's solo song one of the absolute standout musical moments in the entire franchise, Rachel. They are reporting that her vocal performance completely blows you away and sets a whole new bar for Disney Channel original movies.
Which says a lot, Dee, considering the original movies gave us massive anthems. But if the new soundtrack did not deliver catchy songs, the whole tour competition plot would fall completely flat on its face.
Exactly. The whole premise hinges on these new campers being talented enough to plausibly open for Connect 3 on a sold-out reunion tour. Bianca, from a career point of view, how big of a launchpad is this for newcomers like Casey Trotter playing Cliff, Brooklyn Pitts as Callie, or Ava Jean as Madison?
Oh, it is massive, Rachel. Look at what the original did for Demetria Devon Lovato and the Jonas Brothers. Before playing Mitchie, Demi was known from children's television, and suddenly she was launching top 10 albums like Here We Go Again in 2009, Unbroken in 2011, Demi in 2013, and Tell Me You Love Me in 2017.
Not to mention her international chart success, Bianca, like reaching #1 in the United Kingdom with Solo, alongside Clean Bandit, plus major hit tracks like Heart Attack, Cool for the Summer, and Up, featuring Ollie Murs.
And we cannot forget her personal milestones either, like marrying Canadian singer-songwriter Jordan Lutz, also known as Jutes, in 2025. Her journey from her early life in Dallas with her mother Diana De La Garza and her late father Patrick Lovato to becoming a global star and executive producer is remarkable.
The Jonas Brothers experienced that exact same massive global explosion too, scoring 4 top 10 albums in the United Kingdom and a global hit with Sucker. After starting out as Joe, Nick, and Kevin, playing Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray in Connect 3.
It really was a full circle moment for all of them. And now, seeing executive producers like Tim Federle, Betsy Sullinger, Spencer Berman, and Gary Marsh align with Demi and the Jonas Brothers to bring this third installment to life shows how much care was put into protecting that legacy. There is even a special thanks in the production credits to Alan Sachs for his contribution to the franchise.
Let us be real though, Rachel. Protecting the legacy only works if the audience actually knows when and where to tune in. So give everyone watching late tonight the exact release details before people get their schedules confused.
I have all the facts right here, Bianca. Mark your calendars because Camp Rock 3 premieres on Disney Channel this Thursday, August 13 at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific Time. And if you prefer streaming, it drops the very next day, Friday, August 14 on Disney+.
The hype online is reaching a fever pitch as that premiere date approaches, Rachel. Fans are dissecting every single detail of the official trailer that dropped, looking for hints about how Mitchie's cameo fits into the narrative with Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray, while Connie keeps the camp running in the background.
What I want to know, Dee, is how much screen time Mitchie actually gets. We know Demi executive produced it, and that keeping her secret cameo under wraps was definitely hard for her, as she admitted recently. But is it a 2-second wave or a full emotional scene with Connie and Shane?
What her team and those who have seen the production are saying, Bianca, is that Mitchie's brief appearance is hugely meaningful and directly honors her history as that shy singer-songwriter who first arrived at camp while her mother Connie worked as the camp cook.
That continuity is what keeps longtime viewers invested, Dee. Whether you watched the original in 2008 or you are getting into it now with the new generation of campers, having that blend of legacy stars and new talent makes it a major pop culture event.
Just do not expect me to start singing the old soundtracks at 3 in the morning, Rachel, because my voice is definitely not meant for a final jam competition.
Oh, come on, Bianca. I know for a fact you still remember every single word to those songs. If you are watching us live right now, tell us in the chat what original track you are hoping to hear referenced in the new movie.
Speaking of references, Rachel, people online are already noticing how the rivalry and romance dynamics among Sage, Fletch, Desi, and Rosie mirror the original high-stakes musical trials that brought Connect 3 together in the first place.
Romance and chaos always go hand in hand at Camp Rock, D. When you throw a bunch of competitive musicians into summer camp competing for an opening slot on a major reunion tour, sparks are going to fly. And someone is bound to hit a wrong note emotionally or musically.
That pressure is what makes the plot work so well, Bianca. As Connect 3 prepares for their sold-out reunion tour while Lark manages the day-to-day chaos, the stakes for these new campers could not be higher.
And let us not forget that while Connect 3 pops in to sing and judge the trials, the campers are forming unexpected alliances that could completely shift who gets that final spot on stage.
Well, let us see if these new kids can actually carry that pressure without crumbling before the final jam. Because standing on stage in front of thousands of Connect 3 fans is no joke.
That is the ultimate question, Bianca. And with new cast members like Liamani Segura, Malaki Barton, and Lumi Pollock bringing such insane vocal power, the competition is going to be fierce when the movie drops on Disney Channel and Disney Plus. And as the clock keeps ticking into the night here on our live desk, Bianca, we are still unpacking every single detail of this massive Camp Rock 3 return that has everyone talking after 16 years away from the screens.
Rachel, you know I love a good nostalgic throwback. But what gets me is how they managed to loop Demi Lovato back into this whole universe as an executive producer alongside the Jonas Brothers after all this time.
And the reports coming in show that keeping her appearance a total secret was no easy feat either, with Demi admitting herself how hard it has been to keep her cameo under wraps before the premiere on Disney Channel this coming Thursday, August 13th at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and streaming the next day on Disney Plus.
D. That secrecy made the social media teasers even more fun, especially when she posted that little message on X asking her followers if they missed her as Mitchie Torres.
Well, missing her is one thing, but seeing her call the whole return a healing experience after starting out way back in 2008 in the original movie and 2010 in Camp Rock 2, The Final Jam, really puts her whole career journey into perspective. From Barney and Friends all those years ago to global music success with hits like Heart Attack and Cool for the Summer.
And let us not forget the behind-the-scenes talent making all of this happen, because director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adie Faye worked alongside choreographer Jamal Sims and executive producers like Tim Federle to recreate that exact same summer camp feel that fans fell in love with nearly 2 decades ago.
Maria Canals Barrera even mentioned how stepping back onto that set as Connie Torres felt completely on point and nostalgic, and working alongside new campers like Lumi Pollock, Liamani Segura, and Malachi Barton bridges the gap between the original stars and this fresh new generation.
Speaking of the new generation, Dee, What are people saying about Sherry Cola stepping in as Connect Three's manager Lark to handle all the backstage chaos while the Jonas Brothers are busy prepping for their reunion tour?
The early reviews are pointing out that Sherry Cola brings an incredible comedic energy that totally balances out the high-stakes drama and competitive musical trials the campers have to go through for that opening slot.
That balance between the legacy characters we have known for 16 years and the fresh talent like Lumi Polak blowing everyone away with her solo as Rosie is exactly why this franchise is managing to capture lightning in a bottle all over again.
I am just curious to see how the fans tuning in this week react when all those Easter eggs and hidden surprises that Hudson Stone teased earlier this year finally pop up on their screens.
From everything the production team has shared, every corner of that camp set is packed with little nods to the first two films, which is going
Anywhere because we have plenty more to break down right here on the live desk.
Those Easter eggs are really what tie the whole 16-year gap together. Bianca here. And honestly, if you are a fan who grew up with the original in 2008, seeing those tiny set details brought back by director Veronica Rodriguez is pure gold.
Exactly. And from what the production team confirmed, Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adie Faye worked directly with choreographer Jamal Sims to make sure the physical movement and the visual layout felt identical to the original campgrounds from the first two films.
That attention to detail is so impressive, Dee, especially when you consider how much pressure there was on the crew to recapture that specific Disney Channel magic without feeling like a cheap copy.
Well, let us be real, Rachel. Nostalgia can easily turn into a complete gimmick if you do not have the performance talent to back it up. But having Maria Canals-Barrera back in that kitchen as Connie Torres gives the whole set an immediate anchor.
Maria Canals-Barrera actually spoke about stepping back onto that set after all these years, saying it felt completely nostalgic and totally on point because the camp design looks just like it did back when they filmed the original movie.
And she was so generous about the new generation of performers coming into the camp, pointing out how honored she felt to work alongside such a talented group of young actors while still keeping the spirit of Connie Torres alive.
Connie keeping Camp Rock running while all these teenagers compete for a spot on Connect 3's reunion tour is the kind of steady energy the plot needs. Because let us face it, Connect 3 is way too busy preparing for their massive sold-out tour to run daily camp activities.
That is precisely where Sherry Cola steps in as Lark, the manager for Connect 3, and critics who caught the early viewings are raving about how her sharp comedy balances out the high-stakes competitive music trials that the new campers are facing.
Sherry Cola really brings a completely unique energy to the franchise, Dee. And having her manage the logistical chaos while Nick, Kevin, and Joe Jonas drop in for key moments makes total narrative sense for where the band is in their fictional careers.
It is smart writing by Adie Faye because you cannot expect the Jonas Brothers to just be sitting around eating cafeteria food like they did 16 years ago. They are established global superstars now, both in the story and in real life.
Speaking of that growth, it is wild to look back at the original timeline. Since the Jonas Brothers formed back in 2005 before blowing up globally with Camp Rock in 2008 and later dropping massive hits like Sucker.
If you are watching with us live right now in the middle of the night, which original Connect 3 song from 2008 is still sitting at the top of your personal playlist?
Oh, you know everyone in our chat is going to say the classics, Rachel. But what gets me is how Demi Lovato's career launched right alongside them from that exact same launching pad.
It really was a massive turning point for her, going from her early days on Barney and Friends between 2002 and 2004, straight into playing Michi Torres and becoming a household name practically overnight.
And now, at 33 years old, seeing Demi come full circle as both an executive producer on Camp Rock 3 and appearing in that secret cameo as Michi is such a rewarding moment for longtime fans who followed her journey.
Let us not gloss over how hard it was for her to keep that cameo under wraps, though, because she openly admitted in recent interviews that staying quiet about her return was definitely one of the toughest secrets she has had to keep.
She really teased the internet right before the announcement, posting that iconic line asking if everyone missed her, signed XOXO Michi, which instantly sent social media into an absolute tailspin.
Bianca, When you look at her overall music career, with 6 top 10 singles in the United Kingdom, including Solo with Clean Bandit, plus hit tracks like Heart Attack, Cool for the Summer, and Up with Ollie Murs, her impact on pop music over the last 15 years is undeniable.
Absolutely, and from her major studio albums like Here We Go Again in 2009, Unbroken in 2011, her self-titled album Demi in 2013, all the way to Tell Me You Love Me in 2017, she has built a serious body of work outside of Disney.
Plus, on a personal level, seeing her settled and married to Canadian singer-songwriter Jordan Lutz, also known as Jutes, after their wedding in 2025, really adds to why she described returning to the role of Mitchie as such a deeply healing experience.
That emotional maturity really shines through in her producer role here. And it extends to how the creative team, including executive producers Tim Federal, Betsy Sullinger, Spencer Berman, Gary Marsh, and special contributor Alan Sachs, crafted the space for the new cast to shine.
And that new cast is not messing around either, because taking on a musical legacy like this requires serious vocal power, and performers like Lumi Pollock playing Rosie are proving they belong on that stage.
Early reviews specifically singles out Luma Pollock's solo performance as Rosie, calling it one of the absolute standout musical moments in the entire history of the Camp Rock franchise.
That says a lot, considering the original soundtrack delivered songs that defined an entire generation of Disney Channel viewers, Dee. So hearing that the new tracks land just as effectively is a huge win for director Veronica Rodriguez.
Look, I was skeptical when they first announced a third film after 16 years. But pairing talent like Lumi Pollock alongside Liamani Segura as Sage and Malachi Barden as Fletch creates a competitive dynamic that actually feels fresh.
We also have Hudson Stone playing Desi, who was the one teasing all those insane set Easter eggs earlier this year, plus Casey Trotter playing Cliff, Brooklyn Pitts as Callie, and Ava Jean stepping in as Madison.
It is a massive ensemble, and the central plot driving all these new characters is the high-stakes contest to win the coveted opening slot on Connect 3's sold-out reunion tour.
Which is the perfect premise, because it brings back the intense energy of Final Jam from the first 2 movies without feeling like they are just rehashing the old storyline between Shane Gray and Mitchie.
And for anyone trying to mark their calendars for the exact release schedule, Camp Rock 3 officially premieres on the Disney Channel this Thursday, August 13 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, before hitting the Disney Plus streaming platform the very next day on Friday, August 14.
Which means families and original fans who grew up with the franchise will have 2 different ways to catch all the nostalgia and music throughout the premiering weekend.
If you are streaming it on Friday, you know people are going to be frame by frame pausing every single scene just to spot those hidden background references Hudson Stone was talking about.
Hudson mentioned that the thoroughness of the production design is going to blow people away because every corner of the camp set pays direct homage to moments from the 2008 original and the 2010 sequel.
Which original Camp Rock Easter egg are you hoping to spot first when you tune in this Thursday night?
I just want to see if Connie's Camp Kitchen has any subtle nods to the classic flower-covered chaos from the very first movie, because that was the moment Mitchie and Shane really connected.
Well, according to the production team, the kitchen set was rebuilt with incredible accuracy, so fans who remember those early scenes between Demi Lovato and Joe Jonas will definitely recognize the atmosphere right away.
The bond between Joe Jonas, Nick Jonas, and Kevin Jonas on set reportedly felt just as effortless as ever, showing that their real-life band dynamic easily translates back into playing Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray.
They have been playing together as the Jonas Brothers since 2005, so stepping back into those fictional band roles after all these years is probably second nature to them at this point.
And having all 3 brothers serve as executive producers alongside Demi Lovato gave them real creative input into how Connect 3 was presented in this new chapter.
That executive oversight guaranteed that the transition from the old guard to the new generation felt organic rather than forced, which is always the biggest risk with a long-awaited sequel.
Exactly, because if you just shove the legacy cast into the background without giving them meaningful moments, the audience feels cheated. But if you give them all the screen time, the new campers never get a chance to establish themselves.
That balance is why critics are highlighting Sherry Cola's role as Lark, because having a comedic manager handle the daily interactions allows Connect 3 to pop in for major musical performances without overpowering the campers' individual storylines.
Dee, what are the early reactions saying about the dynamic among the new group of campers played by Liamani Segura, Malachi Barton, and Hudson Stone?
Reports indicate that the chemistry among the new cast members is incredibly energetic, especially during the group musical sequences choreographed by Jamal Sims, where the competitive tension between the characters really drives the plot forward.
High-stakes competition, rivalries, romance, and catchy original songs are the exact ingredients that made the original DCOM a global phenomenon back in 2008.
And maintaining that core formula while expanding the universe 16 years later is precisely why this premiere is turning into one of the most talked about television events of the late summer season.
I am still fascinated by how they managed to keep Demi Lovato's cameo a total secret throughout the main filming phase without a single set photo leaking out to the public beforehand.
It required massive security measures on set, and Demi actually mentioned that keeping that secret under wraps was one of the most challenging things she has done recently because she was so excited to share the news with her fans.
When you think about her journey from Barney and Friends in 2002 to global pop stardom, 5 UK top 10 albums, and now returning to her breakout role as an executive producer, it is a tremendous career milestone.
It shows serious longevity in an industry that moves ridiculously fast. And coming back to the project that started it all proves she still has immense love for the characters and the fans who supported her from day one.
That sentiment was echoed by Maria Canals Barrera, who expressed how truly honored and emotional she felt standing on that recreated camp set alongside the original team and watching the new talent perform.
With the Disney Channel premiere set for Thursday, August 13 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and the Disney Plus streaming debut following on Friday, August 14, the countdown is officially down to the wire.
The real test will be whether the new soundtrack can match the massive chart success of the original songs. But with Lumi Polak's solo getting such glowing early reviews, the music seems to be in very solid hands.
The music team definitely put in the work, working alongside director Veronica Rodriguez to deliver fresh pop and rock tracks that feel modern while retaining that distinct camp rock anthem energy.
And as the clock ticks closer to premiere night, we are going to see how the online fan base reacts to every single twist, romance, and cameo revealed in this brand new installment.
You know the live chat is going to be absolute chaos the moment Demi Lovato's character Michi Torres finally steps back onto the screen for that surprise appearance.
Production insiders noted that Michi's brief appearance serves as a perfect bridge between the original films and this new era, giving longtime viewers a sense of closure while passing the torch forward.
That passing of the torch is what makes this sequel feel so intentional rather than just another standard nostalgia cash grab.
Let us see if the new campers can actually handle the pressure when Connect 3 officially kicks off those musical trials on screen this Thursday night.
The competitive stakes are as high as they have ever been, with Sage, Fletch, Rosie, and Desi putting everything on the line for that dream opening slot on Connect 3's tour.
We are going to keep tracking every update and reaction as fans prepare for the August 13 premiere on Disney Channel and the August 14 arrival on Disney+. And just like that, 16 years after we first met Michi Torres and Connect 3, the magic of Camp Rock is officially back on our screens this week.
I still cannot get over how long 33-year-old Demi Lovato managed to keep that secret cameo under wraps before dropping that post on X asking if everyone missed her.
Her team and the production side definitely worked overtime to protect that reveal, especially since she is also credited as an executive producer alongside Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas.
What did you think of how they wove the original stars back in, Dee, while shifting the main spotlight over to the new campers competing for that tour opening slot?
It makes total sense for the narrative because the Jonas Brothers are busy prepping for their reunion tour, so having Sherry Cola step in as Connect 3's manager Lark gives the film this hilarious comedic anchor.
Sherry Cola steals every single scene she is in as Lark, bringing this brilliant, sharp energy that keeps the high-stakes musical trials from getting too overwhelming. Viewer Taylor from Ohio just sent us a message saying, they started crying the absolute second Demi Lovato appeared on screen as Mitchie because it brought back every childhood memory from 2008.
That emotional reaction is exactly what we are seeing across the live chat right now, Taylor, with fans pointing out how comforting it is to see Maria Canals-Barrera back as Connie Torres, keeping the camp running.
Maria Canals-Barrera mentioned in interviews how spot on and nostalgic the set design felt, looking just like it did back when the original movies were filmed.
The director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adi Faye really leaned into those details, planting Easter eggs throughout the camp that longtime viewers are going to spot instantly.
And while the nostalgia is massive, Bianca, the new generation led by Lumi Polak as Rosie, Liamani Segura as Sage, and Malachi Barton as Fletch are holding their own.
Lumi Polak's solo as Rosie completely blew people away, proving this new soundtrack is not just relying on the original hits to carry the weight.
Those new songs are already catching on fast, and with the Disney Channel premiere hitting this Thursday, August 13th at 8 o'clock in the evening, followed by the Disney Plus streaming release on August 14th, the timing couldn't be better.
We need to talk more about how Demi Lovato went from her early days on Barney and Friends all the way to global music milestones and this healing return to the franchise. And just tracing that timeline from her early television work all the way through to her massive music career and her marriage to Jordan Lutz in 2025 makes this whole return feel so significant, doesn't it, Dee?
It really does, Rachel, because when you look at everything she has accomplished, from 6 United Kingdom top 10 singles and a #1 with Clean Bandit to 5 top 10 albums, stepping back into the role of Mitchie Torres is quite a full circle moment.
And let's be honest, the fact that she managed to keep that cameo completely under wraps until the very last minute is impressive in itself, especially when she admitted how hard it was not to blurt it out online.
She did tease it on social media with that little post saying, "Y'all miss me, XOXO Mitchie," which sent everyone into a complete frenzy right before the premiere.
Fans at the premiere were completely thrilled to see her alongside Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas, marking 16 years since the very first film came out in 2008.
What I love is that even though the Jonas Brothers are back looking for an opening act for their reunion tour, they didn't just take over the entire movie, they let the new kids shine.
Speaking of shining, Bianca, let's remind everyone just how soon they can catch all these musical moments, because the countdown is practically over.
Camp Rock 3 premieres this Thursday, August 13th at 8 o'clock in the evening on the Disney Channel, and if you prefer streaming at your own pace, it will be available the very next day, Friday, August 14th, on Disney Plus.
And honestly, with Lumi Polak's standout solo and Sherry Cola running the camp as Manager Lark, you know people are going to be glued to their screens all weekend.
And just thinking about what went into pulling all of this together after 16 years, Dee, what are you hearing about how everyone managed to keep it all under wraps?
Well, Rachel, Demi Lovato actually admitted in interviews that it was definitely hard keeping her cameo a secret from fans, especially since she also took on an executive producer role alongside the Jonas Brothers.
Honestly? Can you imagine trying to sit on a secret like that when people have been waiting nearly 2 decades for Mitchie Torres to walk back onto those cabin grounds?
Exactly, Bianca. And she even teased it on social media with that classic line asking if everyone missed her, right before showing up at the premiere alongside Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas.
And beyond just the main stars returning, Rachel, the behind-the-scenes team, was just as focused on getting the details right, with director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adi Faye making sure the set felt genuinely nostalgic.
You know, hearing Maria Canals-Barrera talk about walking back onto the set and saying it looked just like it did back in 2008 really shows how much care went into honoring the original films.
It really does. And for anyone watching at home who wants to catch every single Easter egg and musical number, let's remind everyone of the exact schedule once again.
Camp Rock 3 officially premieres this Thursday, August 13th at 8 o'clock in the evening on the Disney Channel. And if you prefer streaming on your own time, it drops the very next day on Disney Plus.
Between Sherry Cola stealing every scene as Manager Lark and newcomers like Lumi Polak absolutely blowing everyone away with her solo as Rosie, you know the group chat is going to be going wild all weekend long.
We are keeping a close eye on all the fan reactions rolling in, so stay right here with us as we unpack more of the magic behind the return to camp. And just thinking about how all of this comes together musically, Dee, You were looking into how the new generation holds up next to the legacy acts like the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato.
That is right, Rachel, because while everyone is obviously talking about the huge returns of the core stars, critics are pointing out that the new young leads like Lumi Pollack as Rosie and Liamani Segura as Sage really carry a massive part of the soundtrack's energy.
And honestly, can we talk about how smart it was to bring in Sherry Cola as Lark to handle the management side of Connect 3 while the guys are busy with their tour trials?
Sherry Cola's comedic timing as the manager has been getting rave reviews for keeping that high-stakes camp drama completely grounded and hilarious.
It really balances out the heavy wave of nostalgia we are seeing from characters like Connie Torres, played by Maria Canals Barrera, who noted how surreal it was to step back onto that exact same camp set after 16 years.
When you have got the original cook Connie running the kitchen and the Jonas Brothers searching for an opening act for their reunion tour, it just gives fans of the 2008 original film everything they could possibly want. Hi, Rachel, Bianca, and Dee. I am Chloe, and I am watching live from Chicago in the middle of the night because I literally cannot sleep waiting for the Disney Channel premiere on Thursday, August 13th. Seeing Demi Lovato post that online message saying, "Y'all miss me," XOXO Mitchie literally made me cry tears of joy, and I just know her cameo as an executive producer and star is going to heal my inner child after 16 long years.
Chloe, thank you for staying up with us. And honestly, you are speaking for millions of fans right now who felt that exact same emotional wave when that teaser dropped.
Exactly, Chloe, because as Demi Lovato herself has been reflecting during the premiere event, stepping back into the shoes of Mitchie Torres after everything she has been through in her incredible career, from Barney and Friends all the way to releasing massive chart-topping albums and getting married to Jordan Lutz in 2025, has been deeply healing.
And remember, keeping that cameo a secret from the fans was apparently no easy task either, with Demi admitting in interviews that it was definitely hard to keep under wraps while social media was speculating for months.
It makes the payoff on Disney Channel this Thursday at 8 o'clock in the evening, followed by the Disney Plus streaming release on Friday, August 14th. Feel like an absolute event for everyone who grew up watching the franchise.
Between the brand new songs that you will have stuck in your head all weekend and director Veronica Rodriguez keeping that authentic camp aesthetic alive, it is safe to say the group chats are going to explode the moment the credits roll.
And just to bring it all home as we sit here in the dead of night, Bianca, when you look at the sheer scale of what Disney pulled off with this premiere, it really feels like a full circle moment for everyone who grew up watching the original films back in 2008.
Absolutely, Rachel, because when you have the Jonas Brothers returning alongside Demi Lovato, who not only pops up in that incredible secret cameo as Mitchie Torres, but also serves as an executive producer alongside Kevin, Joe, and Nick, you realize how much creative control these artists took over their legacy.
And the reports from the red carpet were just electric, with everyone talking about how director Veronica Rodriguez managed to keep that authentic camp aesthetic alive while introducing incredible new talent like Lumi Pollack, Liamani Segura, and Malachi Barton to a brand new generation of fans.
Dee, what did you hear about how the behind-the-scenes team managed to recreate that exact vibe of the original 2008 movie without making it feel dated?
Well, the word from people on set was that writer A.D. Faye and choreographer Jamal Sims were extremely meticulous about honoring the roots of the franchise, down to the tiniest Easter eggs hidden around the cabins that eagle-eyed fans are going to lose their minds over this Thursday night.
And honestly, can we take a second to appreciate Sherry Cola as Manager Lark? Because adding her sharp comedic energy to balance out the high-stakes drama of Connect 3 looking for a new opening act was quite simply a masterstroke of casting.
It really is, Bianca, and it makes those musical trials feel so much higher in stakes for the new campers like Hudson Stone and Casey Trotter when you have someone like Sherry steering that chaotic ship.
Exactly. And as anyone who has been tracking the soundtrack can tell you, when Lumi Pollack steps up to deliver that massive vocal solo as Rosie, it completely resets the standard for what a Disney Channel musical franchise can achieve 16 years later.
We have time for just one quick check-in with our viewers before we move deeper into the night. Let us know on our social pages which original song you are hoping gets a cheeky nod in the new film.
And keep in mind, whether you are tuning in to the Disney Channel premiere on Thursday, August 13th at 8 o'clock in the evening, or waiting to stream it on Disney Plus the very next day on August 14th, the anticipation is genuinely off the charts.
And as the night rolls on and we keep unpacking every single detail of this massive Camp Rock revival, let us talk about the logistical side of how this entire project came together behind the scenes, especially with the creative team leading the charge.
Well, Rachel, looking at the production credits, the film was directed by Veronica Rodriguez, who previously directed The Slumber Party, with a script written also by Demi Lovato, and some brilliant choreography put together by Jamal Sims.
Which really explains why the musical numbers and the overall movement of the camp feel so sharp. Because when you have a creative team like that, working alongside executive producers like Tim Federle, Betsy Sullinger, Spencer Berman, Gary Marsh, and of course the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato themselves, you get a production that respects the original films while still pushing things forward.
It is a massive collaborative effort, and let us not forget the shout-out included in the credits to Alan Sachs for his original contribution to the entire Camp Rock franchise back in 2008.
Exactly, Rachel, because honoring the foundational work of the first movie while handing the keys over to a new generation of campers is no small feat, and the creative team managed to balance that legacy beautifully.
Honestly, Bianca, watching how the new cast members like Liamani Segura as Sage, Malachi Barton as Fletch, and Casey Trotter as Cliff fit into the musical trials alongside returning favorites just proves how thorough the planning was.
And we should remind everyone watching right now that if you are planning your week around the premiere, the big Disney Channel debut happens this Thursday, August 13th at 8 o'clock in the evening, followed immediately by the Disney Plus streaming release the next day on August 14th.
That 24-hour turnaround between the linear television premiere and the streaming availability is a fantastic way to capture both traditional viewers and the massive online streaming audience.
You know, looking at how the fandom has responded since the premiere event on Monday night, it is pretty clear that 16 years away from the franchise only made the appetite for this world stronger.
It really is, Bianca, and it loops back to what Demi Lovato shared about her journey from Barney and Friends in her early childhood days, all the way to becoming a global music powerhouse with 6 UK top 10 singles and albums like Tell Me You Love Me.
When you trace that trajectory from playing Michi Torres as a teenager in 2008 to returning now as both an executive producer and a surprise cameo appearance, it is a textbook definition of a full-circle pop culture moment.
And let us be real. Keeping that cameo a secret from the fans while dropping teasers on social media with lines like, quote, "Y'all miss me, XOXO, Mitchie," was a brilliant marketing strategy that kept everyone guessing until the very last second.
And keeping that secret really paid off when you look at the premiere event and the incredible wave of fan reactions pouring in right now. Right, Dee?
Absolutely, Rachel, because when you realize how hard it was for Demi Lovato to keep that cameo under wraps, especially with her posting teasers online saying things like, quote, "Y'all miss me, XOXO Mitchie," it made the payoff at the end of the film so much sweeter for everyone watching.
Honestly, it is brilliant marketing at its finest because 16 years away from playing Michi Torres is a long time, and transitioning from that early Disney breakthrough all the way to executive producing this third installment alongside the Jonas Brothers is quite a career milestone.
It really is, Bianca, and it sits right alongside her incredible musical journey, which includes 6 United Kingdom top 10 singles and albums like Tell Me You Love Me, plus her 2025 marriage to Jordan Lutz.
And let us not forget the behind-the-scenes talent shaping this whole revival, Rachel, like director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Demi Lovato, who worked alongside choreographer Jamal Sims to make sure the camp set design looked just like it did back in 2008.
Viewer Maya writes in from Denver. I cannot believe Demi is back as Mitchie after all this time. Camp Rock was my entire childhood, and seeing her and the Jonas Brothers together again on August 13th is literally a dream come true. Maya, you are definitely not alone in feeling that way, because hearing cast members like Maria Canals-Barrera talk about returning as Connie Torres and seeing the meticulous Easter eggs scattered all over the set proves how much care went into this project.
It is that exact balance of nostalgia and fresh energy that makes the whole thing work, bringing back legacy characters while introducing fantastic new campers like Liamani Segura, Malachi Barton, and Lumi Polak, whose solo song as Rosie is currently blowing people away.
And then you have Sherry Cola stepping in as Connect 3's manager Lark, bringing that sharp comedic energy to balance out the high-stakes drama of the musical trials for the reunion tour.
She is a riot in every single scene. And with the Disney Channel premiere hitting screens on August 13th and streaming on Disney Plus the following day on August 14th, the timing for this full circle moment couldn't be better.
Bianca, when you look at the way this entire rollout has come together, especially with the Disney Channel premiere locked in for Thursday, August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific time, and then hitting Disney Plus the very next day on August 14th, it feels like the ultimate pop culture loop.
Rachel, absolutely, because the anticipation has been building for 16 years since the first movie dropped back in 2008. And honestly, having the Jonas Brothers back as Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray to kick off this new chapter is just iconic.
And Dee, what were people saying about how the plot actually pulls the legacy elements together with the brand new talent? Well, everyone is talking about how Connect 3 returning to camp to hold those high-stakes musical trials for a reunion tour opening act creates the perfect narrative bridge, allowing familiar faces to return while handing the mic over to incredible newcomers like Liamani Segura as Sage and Malachi Barton as Fletch.
It really is a masterclass in blending nostalgia with fresh energy, especially with Maria Canals-Barrera returning as Connie Torres to keep Camp Rock running smoothly, just like she did back in the day.
And let us not forget Sherry Cola stepping in as Connect 3's manager Lark, because as someone pointed out, she is an absolute riot in every single scene, bringing that sharp comedic energy to balance out all the dramatic tension among the campers.
Dee, what else stood out from the early reviews and fan reactions regarding the musical side of things?
Reviewers have been raving about the soundtrack, particularly highlighting Lumi Polak's character Rosie, who apparently has a solo song that completely blows everyone away and stands as one of the best musical moments in the entire franchise.
When you have newcomers delivering vocals like that, alongside the classic pop rock energy of the Jonas Brothers, it proves that the creative team, including director Veronica Rodriguez and choreographer Jamal Sims, knew exactly what they were doing to keep the magic alive.
And of course, the biggest conversation piece remains Demi Lovato returning as Michi Torres for that secret cameo and taking on an executive producer role alongside the Joe Bros, which she admitted was a deeply healing experience after 16 years.
Fans on social media have been losing their minds over her subtle teasers on X, where she posted asking if everyone missed her alongside her character's name, proving just how much love there still is for her Disney breakthrough.
Keeping a cameo like that under wraps in today's digital age is practically impossible. So the fact that she managed to do it while balancing her massive global music career, from her early days on Barney and Friends to major hits like Heart Attack and Cool for the Summer, makes the whole reveal even more special.
And just thinking about how all of these pieces fit together, Dee, when you look at the wider rollout, from the Disney Channel premiere coming up on August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right into the Disney Plus streaming release the very next day on August 14th, the timing is practically tailor-made for a massive summer pop culture moment.
Exactly, Rachel. Because waiting 24 hours between the television broadcast and the streaming drop used to feel standard. But now it feels like a deliberate strategy to build that second wave of online chatter right when fans are waking up on Thursday morning to catch it on Disney Plus.
And the team behind the scenes really leaned into that multi-platform strategy, especially with the way the official trailer dropped alongside key artillery and press materials, giving outlets and fan accounts plenty of ammunition to start dissecting every single background detail weeks before the actual premiere event.
It is fascinating to see how executive producers like Tim Federle, Betsy Sellinger, Spencer Berman, and Gary Marsh, alongside Alan Sachs for his foundational contribution to the franchise, managed to steer a production of this scale while keeping major elements like Demi Lovato's return completely under wraps until the very last minute.
Well, keeping a secret like that in 2025 is practically an Olympic sport, considering every single person on set has a phone in their pocket. So kudos to the entire crew, including writer Adi Faye and director Veronica Rodriguez, for maintaining that level of tight-lipped discipline.
Fans on social media were definitely feeling the suspense, Rachel, especially after Demi posted that cheeky message on X asking if everyone missed her alongside her character's name, which immediately sent the fandom into a tailspin of speculation before the official confirmation finally dropped.
Speaking of the fandom, Bianca, we have been seeing messages rolling in all night from viewers who grew up with the original 2008 movie and its 2010 sequel, Camp Rock 2, The Final Jam, and the emotional resonance of seeing Connie Torres back in the kitchen is hitting people right in the nostalgia.
Maria Canals-Berea returning to play Connie Torres is such an anchor for the whole narrative, because even though the spotlight is shifting toward newcomers like Liamani Segura as Sage, Malachi Barton as Fletch, and Hudson Stone as Desi, having that familiar face keeping the camp running makes the bridge between the old era and the new one feel completely seamless.
And let's not overlook the comedic brilliance that Sherry Cola brings to the table as Lark, the manager for Connect 3, who really steps in to drive that day-to-day competition plot while the Jonas Brothers are busy managing their upcoming reunion tour commitments.
D, from everything you have been tracking regarding the critical response and early reviews, how are critics reacting to how the musical trials and the new soundtrack are landing with audiences?
The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, Rachel, with reviewers highlighting that the new songs are genuinely catchy and that standout vocal performances, particularly Lumi Pollack's solo as Rosie, are holding their own alongside the classic pop rock energy of the Jonas Brothers.
Which is no small feat, because when you introduce a completely new generation of campers into a beloved legacy franchise, viewers can be notoriously protective of the original vibe. But the creative team clearly understood the assignment by keeping the core DNA intact while letting the new talent shine.
Which brings us right to the heart of why everyone is talking about this premiere schedule, because as we know, Camp Rock 3 officially hits the Disney Channel this Thursday, August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, and streams the very next day on Disney+.
And honestly, Rachel, 16 years is a long time to wait for a return to a franchise. But looking at how the rollout is happening with the Disney Channel premiere, followed immediately by the Disney Plus streaming release, it is clear they are giving both traditional cable viewers and streaming fans the exact red carpet treatment they wanted.
Exactly, Bianca, and the buzz leading up to this has been massive, especially with the reporting around the premiere event itself, where the original stars, including Demi Lovato and Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas, actually reunited on the red carpet, bringing that 2008 energy right back into 2025.
D, what did people on the ground at that premiere say about the atmosphere and seeing the core group back together after all this time?
The reports from the red carpet were all about how surreal and full circle it felt, Rachel, with everyone talking about how the core group embraced the new generation of campers, proving that the bond from the original films is still completely intact.
Which is fascinating when you remember that when the first movie came out back in 2008, nobody knew it would spawn a global phenomenon or lead to things like Camp Rock 2, The Final Jam competing against Camp Star in 2010, or launch massive music careers like Demi Lovato's.
Speaking of Demi Lovato's incredible journey, Bianca, let us not forget her path from children's television like Barney and Friends between 2002 and 2004, right through to her Disney breakthrough as Michi Torres, and eventually becoming an executive producer on Camp Rock 3 alongside the Jonas Brothers.
And that executive producer role is huge, Rachel, because alongside Tim Federle, Betsy Sellinger, Spencer Berman, Gary Marsh, and original contributor Alan Sachs, Demi and the Jonas Brothers were deeply involved in shaping how this third chapter honors the original camp while bringing in fresh talent.
Though let us be real, the hardest part for Demi must have been keeping her secret cameo under wraps, which she admitted was definitely hard, especially when she posted that teaser on social media saying, Y'all miss me, XOXO Mitchie.
Let us check our live viewer feed right here in the middle of the night, because we have a message coming in from the chat that I just have to read out loud.
I have loved Camp Rock since I was 7 years old, and seeing Demi Lovato back as Mitchie Torres with the Jonas Brothers after 16 years literally made me cry tears of joy on the red carpet.
That is so sweet. And honestly, that viewer reaction captures the exact emotional resonance this franchise still holds for millions of fans who grew up watching the original films.
It really does. And it proves why Disney and director Veronica Rodriguez had to be so meticulous about recreating the original camp set design and hiding all those Easter eggs that Hudson Stone and Maria Canals-Barrera have been teasing.
Speaking of Maria Canals-Barrera returning as Connie Torres, she mentioned last year how surreal and on point the set looked, noting that the camp looks just like it did back in the day, which anchored the whole nostalgic feel for the returning cast.
Dee, what else have we heard about how the new generation of campers interacts with those legacy characters on screen?
Well, Rachel, the narrative cleverly balances the Jonas Brothers returning as Connect 3 to find a new opening act for their sold-out reunion tour with the day-to-day chaos of the musical trials managed by Sherry Cola's hilarious character, Lark.
Sherry Cola as Lark is honestly a masterstroke of casting, because when you have high-stakes drama and tension among new campers like Lumi Pollack, Liamani Segura, and Malachi Barton, you need a sharp comedic anchor to keep the movie moving at a brisk pace.
And the critics are definitely noticing, with early reviews praising not just the comedy, but the standout musical moments, including Lumi Pollack's powerhouse vocal solo as Rosie on the new soundtrack. And as we count down the hours to the big premiere on Disney Channel this Thursday, August 13th at 8 o'clock in the evening Eastern Time and streaming the very next day on Disney+, the excitement over how these pieces fit together is just incredible.
Rachel, what really gets me about this whole rollout is how they managed to keep certain things completely under wraps. Because Demi Lovato recently admitted that keeping her cameo as Mitchie Torres a secret was definitely hard work.
She even posted on social media teasing it with her signature wit, writing, "Y'all miss me, XOXO Mitchie," which sent fans into an absolute frenzy right after the red carpet premiere on Monday night.
Dee, that red carpet reunion with Kevin, Joe, Nick, and Demi was such a full-circle moment for everyone who grew up watching the original two films back in 2008 and 2010.
It is wild to think it has been 16 years since the first movie dropped, and seeing them all back together, even with Demi taking on that executive producer role alongside her cameo, feels like proper closure for a whole generation of viewers.
And beyond just the nostalgia, Bianca, we are hearing from the creative team, including director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Adi Faye, that every corner of the camp set was meticulously designed to mirror the original aesthetic.
Speaking of the set, Dee, Maria Canals-Barrera shared last year how surreal it felt walking back onto that campgrounds and seeing Connie Torres' kitchen looking exactly like it did back in the day.
That kind of attention to detail is honestly what makes reboots or sequels actually work, instead of just feeling like a cash grab, because you can tell the people making it genuinely care about the legacy.
Hudson Stone, who plays Desi in the new movie, also mentioned earlier this year that fans need to keep their eyes peeled for all the hidden Easter eggs sprinkled throughout the runtime because they are so insane.
It really balances that legacy with the fresh energy of newcomers like Lumi Pollack, Liamani Segura, and Malachi Barton, who are carrying the musical trials for Connect 3's reunion tour.
And let us not forget Sherry Cola as Lark, because every time she pops up on screen as the stressed-out manager trying to herd these talented teenagers, she completely steals the scene with her comedic timing.
Viewers at home are already talking non-stop about the soundtrack, especially Lumi Pollack's powerhouse solo as Rosie, which critics are calling one of the standout musical moments of the entire franchise.
And just looking at how everything is rolled out for this premiere, Dee, what are people saying about how Demi Lovato managed to keep that whole return under wraps until the very last second?
Well, Rachel, Demi actually admitted herself that it has definitely been hard keeping her Camp Rock 3 cameo a secret from everyone, especially with how excited fans have been online ever since the project was first announced.
Honestly, posting that little tease on X where she literally wrote, "Y'all miss me," with the signature cross Oh Cross, Oh Mitchie was just the most brilliant way to drive people completely wild right before the red carpet.
It is so true, Bianca, and seeing her reunite right there with Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas at the premiere on Monday night after 16 years since the first movie dropped in 2008 is just giving everyone all the feels.
And beyond just stepping back in front of the camera as Michi Torres, she is also serving as an executive producer alongside the Jonas Brothers, helping guide this brand new chapter for the franchise.
Which is incredible when you think about her entire journey, starting out on children's television in Barney and Friends alongside the Purple Dinosaur from 2002 to 2004 before getting her massive Disney breakthrough.
Exactly, Bianca. And that path led directly to global music success with massive chart hits like Heart Attack, Cool for the Summer, and her collaborations with Clean Bandit and Ollie Murs, plus her 2025 marriage to Jordan Lutz.
She even opened up recently about how returning to the camp set and putting on that character again felt genuinely healing for her, which adds such a sweet layer to this whole reunion.
It is hard not to get a little emotional watching the legacy cast, including Maria Canals-Barrera returning as Connie Torres, seamlessly passed the baton to these fresh faces while keeping that original camp magic alive.
Speaking of the premiere logistics, D, for everyone tuning in at home who wants to make sure they do not miss a single second of the action, when exactly can they catch it?
Camp Rock 3 officially premieres on the Disney Channel this Thursday, August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and if you prefer to stream it, it will be available the very next day, August 14th on Disney+.
August 13th on Disney Channel and August 14th on Disney+. So everyone has plenty of time to clear their schedules and get their popcorn ready for the big night.
And just to circle back to what you were saying about the music, D, it really feels like this new generation of campers is stepping up in a massive way, especially with those standout vocal performances we have been hearing so much about.
Honestly, Rachel, hearing about Lumi Pollack crushing that solo as Rosie just reminds me of how much raw talent these Disney projects manage to unearth. Because it is not easy to carry a franchise that started way back in 2008.
It really is impressive, Bianca, and the reviewers are pointing out that even with all the heavy nostalgia surrounding the return of Connect 3 and Maria Canals-Barrera back as Connie Torres, these fresh faces like Liamani Segura and Malachi Barton hold their own.
Well, speaking of fans at home who are living for every single detail of this 16-year reunion, let us check in with our live feed because the messages are just pouring in right now.
Hi, Rachel, Bianca, and Dee. I am Chloe from Chicago, and I literally cannot cope with the fact that Demi Lovato actually kept her cameo a secret after all these years. Seeing Michi Torres back at Camp Rock with the Jonas Brothers is everything I wanted since childhood. See, Chloe gets it completely. Because Demi literally admitted that keeping her return under wraps as both an executive producer and a cameo star was definitely hard, especially with how excited everyone was on social media.
And that social media teaser where she posted saying, "Y'all miss me, XOXO Michi," was just masterclass in building hype because nobody outside the inner circle knew for sure how she would fit into the narrative alongside Sherry Cola's hilarious character Lark.
It is such a full circle moment for everyone involved, E. Considering how far Demi has come since her early days on Barney and Friends all the way through her global music success and her 2025 marriage to Jordan Lutz.
Exactly, Rachel. And whether people are tuning in for the nostalgic callbacks or the brand new tracks on the soundtrack, it is clear that director Veronica Rodriguez and the entire creative team managed to strike that delicate balance between the past and the present.
Just keep in mind for everyone asking about the exact timeline. The movie officially debuts on the Disney Channel this Thursday, August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and then hits Disney Plus the very next day on August 14th.
And just to circle back to what we were saying about how the entire production team managed to bridge that 16-year gap, Bianca, it is genuinely impressive how director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Edie Faye built a narrative that honors the 2008 original and its sequel, while handing the spotlight over to fresh faces like Lumi Pollack and Liamani Segura.
Absolutely, Rachel. Because let us be honest, legacy sequels can so easily fall into the trap of leaning entirely on cheap nostalgia. without giving the audience anything new to actually care about.
And that was the real challenge for everyone involved, Bianca, especially considering how much pressure there was to get the tone right when Connect 3 returns to camp, looking for that new opening act for their reunion tour.
Exactly, Dee. And speaking of the behind-the-scenes effort, let us not forget that alongside the Jonas Brothers reprising their roles as Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray, Demi Lovato stepped up not only for that wonderful secret cameo as Michi Torres, but also as an executive producer alongside them.
Which is wild to think about, Rachel, when you remember her journey from starting out on Barney and Friends back in the early 2000s, all the way through her Disney Channel breakthrough in the first Camp Rock movie and her massive global music career with hits like Heart Attack and Cool for the Summer.
And she has been so open about how difficult it was to keep that cameo under wraps, Bianca, telling reporters that it was definitely hard keeping it a secret, but ultimately calling her return to the franchise an incredibly healing experience.
That word healing really sticks out, doesn't it, Dee? Especially for longtime fans who watched her grow up on screen alongside Kevin, Joe, and Nick Jonas before she went on to release incredible albums like Here We Go Again and Tell Me You Love Me, and more recently, marrying Canadian singer-songwriter Jordan Lutz in 2025.
It really is a full circle moment, Rachel. And whether people are tuning in for the nostalgic callbacks or to see Maria Canals-Barrera back in action as Connie Torres cooking in the camp kitchen, the sheer amount of detail is staggering.
Hudson Stone actually talked about that earlier this year, Bianca, mentioning how thorough the production was with all the hidden Easter eggs sprinkled throughout the camp set, making it feel like stepping right back into 2008.
For anyone just tuning in or planning their viewing party for this week, let us remind everyone of the exact schedule, Dee, because the countdown is officially down to just days.
Camp Rock 3 officially premieres on the Disney Channel this coming Thursday, August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And for those who prefer to stream at their own pace, it will be available on Disney Plus the very next day on August 14th.
And trust me, between Sherry Cola stealing every single scene she is in as Manager Lark and Lumi Pollack blowing everyone away with her standout vocal solo as Rosie, you are going to want to have your snacks ready for both nights.
That double night release schedule really gives fans the best of both worlds. And speaking of Sherry Cola stepping into the mix as Manager Lark, Dee, tell us a bit more about how her character actually fits into the plot, while Connect 3 is away getting ready for their big reunion tour.
Well, Rachel, because Shane, Nate, and Jason Gray, played by Joe, Nick, and Kevin Jonas, are busy getting everything ready for this massive sold-out tour, they simply cannot be at camp every single day to run the day-to-day competition. So Connect 3 sends in their brilliant manager, Lark, played by Sherry Cola, to oversee the whole process and keep the musical trials running smoothly at Camp Rock.
And honestly, having Sherry Cola in that central role is pure genius because she brings this razor-sharp comedic timing that keeps the energy moving from scene to scene. You have all these talented new campers dealing with high-stakes drama, unexpected alliances, and even a little romance, and then Lark walks into the frame and just cracks you up. It balances out all that intense competition so well.
It really sounds like a clever way to structure the story, Bianca. And Dee, for anyone trying to get to know this new generation of campers before Thursday night, who are the key faces we should be watching out for during these musical trials?
There is a whole fresh lineup of talent coming into the camp, Rachel. You have Liamani Segura playing Sage, Malachi Barton as Fletch, Lumi Pollack as Rosie, and Hudson Stone playing Desi. Plus, we have Casey Trotter as Cliff, Brooklyn Pitts playing Callie, and Ava Jean as Madison. They are all stepping into this franchise with serious vocal talent and dynamic stage presence.
And let us not gloss over what critics and early reviews are saying about Lumi Pollack's character, Rosie. Word is she has this unbelievable vocal solo in the movie that completely steals the spotlight. People who have seen early screenings are calling it one of the absolute standout musical moments in the entire history of the franchise, which is saying something given the massive hits from the original 2008 film and the 2010 sequel.
That is high praise, especially considering how iconic those original soundtracks were for a whole generation. Dee, what did Maria Canals-Barrera say about working alongside this new group when she returned to play Connie Torres?
Maria mentioned after wrapping production last year that returning to the set felt incredibly nostalgic and completely on point. She said the camp looks exactly like it did back when they filmed the original, and she was so honored to be back cooking in the camp kitchen as Connie Torres. She also teased that fans are going to absolutely love seeing the Jonas Brothers back in action together, and promised that there are lots of surprises in store for the audience.
That set recreation really says a lot about the whole creative team, Rachel. Director Veronica Rodriguez and writer Eddie Faye clearly cared about getting every single detail right for the fans. When you combine their vision with Jamal Sims handling the choreography, you get a movie that respects the legacy of the original while giving these new kids plenty of room to showcase their skills.
It really takes a massive team to pull off something this nostalgic, Dee. Who else is working behind the scenes on the executive side to make sure the film captures that original magic?
It is a huge team effort, Rachel. Tim Federle, who did amazing work on High School Musical, the series, serves as an executive producer alongside Betsy Sullinger, Spencer Berman, and Gary Marsh. And of course, Joe, Nick, and Kevin Jonas are executive producing, along with Demi Lovato herself.
Seeing Demi Lovato's name on that executive producer list right alongside the Jonas Brothers is what makes this entire return feel so complete, Dee. She went on X and posted, "Y'all miss me? XOXO Mitchie," and the internet practically broke. To go from starring as a shy teenager named Mitchie Torres back in 2008 to producing and making a secret cameo 16 years later is just incredible.
Her journey in this industry really is remarkable, Bianca. Dee, when you look at Demi's career trajectory from where she started as a young performer to where she is today, it is quite a history.
Absolutely, Rachel. Demetria Devon Lovato actually got her start way back on children's television, appearing on Barney and Friends alongside the Purple Dinosaur between 2002 and 2004. Then 2008 brought her massive breakthrough role as Mitchie in Camp Rock, which launched a global music career featuring major studio albums like Here We Go Again in 2009, Unbroken in 2011, Demi in 2013, and Tell Me You Love Me in 2017.
Plus all those global hit singles over the years. You have Heart Attack, Cool for the Summer, her track Up featuring English singer Ollie Murs, and her UK #1 hit single Solo with Clean Bandit. And on top of all those professional milestones, she had that beautiful personal milestone in 2025 when she married Canadian singer-songwriter Jordan Lutz. So coming back to Mitchie, after all of that growth, feels deeply personal for her.
If you have been following Demi's career since those early Disney Channel days, send us a message on our show's social handles and let us know what your favorite Mitchie Torres song has been over the last 16 years. Bianca, what about the Jonas Brothers? Their story with this franchise is just as deep.
Oh, completely. Kevin, Joe, and Nick formed the band back in 2005, and when Camp Rock hit screens in 2008, it propelled them into a whole new level of worldwide fame. They scored 4 UK top 10 albums, that massive hit single, Sucker. And now 18 years after the franchise started, they are coming full circle as both returning stars and executive producers on Camp Rock 3.
And Dee, the storyline in this third film actually reflects that real-life history so well, with Connect 3 searching for an opening act for their big reunion tour.
Exactly, Rachel. The entire plot revolves around Connect 3 coming back to camp to set up a challenge for this new generation, competing in a series of musical trials for a shot at becoming the opening act on their upcoming tour. As all these ambitious new campers vie for that dream spot, you get competitive chaos, rising tensions, unexpected alliances, and even romantic sparks flying around camp.
And as Hudson Stone pointed out earlier this year, the production went completely all out with hidden Easter eggs scattered all over the camp, set for longtime fans to spot. So whether you are watching for the nostalgic nods to the original 2008 movie or for the brand new music, there is something tucked into every scene.
Dee, tell us more about what happens during those musical trials when the competition reaches its peak.
Well, Rachel, as the campers push through the trials under manager Lark's watchful eye, the pressure gets intense. Everyone wants that opening slot on Connect 3's tour, but what makes it so fascinating is how these rivalries turn into surprising musical pairings right before the final jam.
And that is where that secret cameo from Demi Lovato as Mitchie Torres comes in to completely shift the energy, because just when you think you know who is going to win,
And just like that, Bianca, we are counting down the final hours before the big television premiere this week, and the chatter online is simply refusing to slow down.
Honestly, Rachel, 16 years is a massive gap, and yet seeing everyone back on that exact same camp set is proving to be the ultimate comfort watch for the middle-of-the-night crowd tuning in right now.
And the numbers backing up the excitement are wild, because between the trailer drops and the red carpet photos from the premiere earlier this week, the teams behind the scenes have managed to generate non-stop conversation across every platform.
D. Walk us through how the fans are reacting specifically to the way the new generation of campers blends with those legacy characters like the Jonas Brothers and Maria Canals-Barrera returning as Connie Torres.
Well, Rachel, the general consensus online is that the new cast, featuring talented kids like Liamani Segura, Malachi Barton, and Lumi Polek, is holding their own against the heavy nostalgia, especially with Sherry Cola bringing that sharp comedic energy as the band manager Lark.
Sherry Cola is an absolute scene stealer, let's be real, because keeping those campers in line while Connect 3 is busy preparing for their tour gives the whole movie a hilarious backbone. Taylor from Ohio just messaged the live feed saying, quote,